Beneath the golden sands of Egypt lies a silence that has endured for thousands of years, not the silence of emptiness, but of secrets. Secrets carved in stone with tools we can't explain. Whispers echoing through forgotten chambers, sealed by time, sealed by purpose. Why did ancient architects align monuments with distant stars, long before the invention of the telescope? What force guided their hands, and what knowledge have we lost, or were never meant to find? In a land where gods walked with kings and tombs were built to outlast empires, the line between history and myth begins to blur. From pyramids that hum with untraceable energy to tombs that defy the laws of time, the evidence is there, hidden in plain sight. We are left with fragments, enigmatic texts, impossible structures, and relics that challenge everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. So if you're ready to question the past, to step into the shadowed halls of forgotten temples and chase the echoes of a civilization that may still be watching, sit back, relax, and let's dive deeper into the mystery. The Egyptian desert holds many secrets. Beneath its windswept dunes, where time seems suspended in the shimmer of heat and sand, fragments of ancient lives still rest in silence. One such fragment lies hidden in a story that refuses to settle. A tale not of a lost city or a hidden chamber, but of a man, a ruler, a pharaoh, who, some believe, was buried not once, but twice. We begin in the Valley of the Kings, that hallowed stretch of scorched earth on the west bank of the Nile near Luxor. Here, in steep and jagged cliffs, royal tombs were hewn directly into the limestone, deep and deliberate. It was not merely a place of rest. It was a gateway to eternity, designed to preserve the divine legacy of Egypt's god-kings. Each tomb followed an order, a sacred blueprint of passage, ceremony, and celestial alignment. And yet, one burial stands apart. Not because of what was found, but because of what doesn't quite add up. The tomb, known as KV55, was discovered in 1907 by Edward Ayrton. At first glance, it seemed typical of the 18th dynasty, its architecture unadorned, rushed even, far simpler than the elaborate chambers of kings like Seti I or Ramesses II. Inside, the team found scattered funerary artifacts, desecrated relics, and a single desecrated coffin. That coffin had been deliberately damaged. Its golden faceplate had been violently removed, chiseled away, its inscriptions defaced, its royal identity erased, and lying within it, a skeletal body, partially preserved, wrapped in ancient linen, arms crossed in the classic pose of royalty. This was no commoner. But who was he? The initial assumption, based on a handful of objects bearing the name of Queen Tiye and references to the Aten, the sun disk god central to Akhenaten's radical monotheism, was that this tomb belonged to someone from the Amarna period, that short and controversial chapter in Egyptian history when the traditional pantheon was overthrown in favor of a single deity. But whose body was this? Scientific investigations over the decades brought more confusion than clarity. At first, scholars believed the mummy to be that of Queen Tiye herself, Akhenaten's mother. Later tests revealed the remains to be male. Some claimed the body was too young to be Akhenaten, perhaps no more than 20 or 25 years of age. But further analysis, including CT scans and dental studies, suggested a man closer to 35 or 40. That window opened the possibility that this was Akhenaten, the heretic king who moved Egypt's capital to Amarna and sought to erase centuries of religious tradition. But here's where the mystery deepens. Akhenaten's burial had long been assumed to have taken place at Amarna, the city he built from nothing. Fragments of a royal tomb there seem to confirm this, including inscriptions referring to a king who rested in Akhetaten. And yet, his body was never definitively found in that tomb. Was he moved? Was he rejected by his successors so completely that his bones were literally exhumed and cast out? Some scholars believe that after the fall of Amarna and the return to traditional gods under Tutankhamun and later rulers, Akhenaten's remains were secretly retrieved, perhaps by those who still held sympathy for his reign, and quietly interred in the Valley of the Kings. If true, KV-55 may have been a reluctant second burial, performed in haste and secrecy. A king denied dignity in death, his name hacked off every surface, his face stripped from the coffin that once honored him. Others, however, propose that the tomb may not be Akhenaten's at all, but that of his son, Smenkhkare, a shadowy figure who may have ruled briefly between Akhenaten and Tutankhamun. Some inscriptions hint at Smenkkare's reign, though details remain sparse. Was the mummy in KV-45 actually him? A king whose name never reached the grandeur of history's pages, whose story was buried, quite literally, with someone else's. Then there's the more radical theory, that this burial was never meant to be found at all. That the very act of stripping the coffin, of defacing it, was not just desecration, but a form of ritual erasure. In ancient Egypt, to remove a name was to destroy a soul. Was this second burial part of an orchestrated attempt to wipe Akhenaten from existence? And yet, the body was preserved. Despite the damage, it was not burned or scattered. The remains were placed with care in a coffin built for a royal. Why would those who hated this king so much go through the trouble of preserving his remains at all? Could it be that Akhenaten's followers, even after his death, still saw him as divine? Not merely a heretic, but a prophet. Might they have secretly reburied him under the cover of night, defying official decree? Or perhaps it was political, a symbolic act of closure to prevent unrest, giving the king a burial in the traditional necropolis while ensuring his story faded into dust. The mystery of KV-55 deepens with every test, every scan, every theory. The DNA evidence now suggests a close relationship between the KV-55 mummy and Tutankhamun, almost certainly his father. But even that confirmation does not solve the riddle of why the body was treated with both reverence and hostility, why it was buried with honor and yet stripped of identity. Buried once, perhaps at Amarna, buried again, hastily, without a name, in the Valley of the Kings. Is it a case of royal disgrace? A calculated political move? Or does the story point to something more elusive, something hidden beneath the narrative we've come to accept? In the silence of KV-45, we hear the echoes of a broken dynasty, a kingdom torn between gods, and a man whose place in history is still fiercely contested. His bones remain, fragile and exposed, as scientists continue to debate his age, his pathologies, even his identity. But the deeper question may not be who he was. It may be, why was he buried twice? And who, in the shadows of empire and eternity, made that decision? Somewhere in that tomb, in the worn gold, the fractured stone, the broken face of a forgotten king, a truth still waits, not yet uncovered, not yet understood, not yet at rest. The desert winds move softly across the sands of Dashur, brushing against scattered stones and sun-bleached debris. The horizon trembles slightly in the afternoon heat, but even from a distance, it is unmistakable. A shape that rises from the earth with a strange, almost reluctant posture. Angular yet incomplete, imposing yet somehow hesitant. The structure stands not in triumph, but in silence. This is the unfinished pyramid of southern Dashur, an enigma of stone and shadow. It is often overlooked, dwarfed in public imagination by the Great Pyramid of Giza or the precision of Khafra's funerary complex. There are no polished limestone casings here, no perfectly aligned causeways. What stands instead is an abandoned attempt, a pyramid begun, then seemingly forgotten. But why? Archaeologists attribute the structure to the pharaoh Amenemhat III, a ruler of the 12th dynasty during Egypt's Middle Kingdom, a king remembered for his monumental building campaigns and administrative reforms. He was no stranger to grand designs. In fact, nearby he completed another fully realized pyramid at Hawara, famed for its labyrinthine substructure. So what went wrong here, in the lonely fields of Dashur? The pyramid's core was begun with the same ambition that guided so many of Egypt's great constructions, to ensure the pharaoh's safe passage into the afterlife, to anchor his name into eternity. Yet only the lower portion was completed, a rough base, rising just a few meters, surrounded by rubble and the skeletal beginnings of a foundation. No capstone, no finished chambers, no burial. Initial assessments suggest that construction ceased due to structural instability. The ground beneath the site, composed of loose clay and sand, may have threatened the pyramid's long-term stability. Ancient engineers, renowned for their pragmatic brilliance, may have chosen to abandon the site in favor of safer terrain. There is even evidence that materials were repurposed, blocks destined for the tomb redirected elsewhere, possibly to Hawara. But the story doesn't end with practicality. Locals in the surrounding villages have long referred to the unfinished pyramid not with indifference, but with unease. Its presence, they say, is not merely unfinished. It is unwelcoming. Stories tell of strange sounds at night, of shifting sands and shadows that linger too long. Excavators over the past century have reported an unusual atmosphere at the site, a heaviness, an almost magnetic discomfort that lingers near the base of the structure. While such feelings are, of course, subjective, they mirror accounts from other sacred places in Egypt where ancient rituals once took place and where the spiritual residue of the past seems to cling to the very air. Was the site chosen based only on geography and practicality? Or was there something else that made this place significant or dangerous? Some fringe researchers have suggested the location itself may be seated on what they call an energetic fault line, a theoretical intersection of telluric currents or natural electromagnetic pathways beneath the Earth. These researchers point to anomalies recorded in similar pyramid sites, shifts in compass readings, fluctuations in magnetic fields, or subtle audio frequencies that seem to vibrate without an identifiable source. Could the abandonment of this pyramid have stemmed from more than faulty soil? Could the site have been intentionally left incomplete? Not because it failed the builders, but because it disturbed them. Of course, mainstream archaeology does not support such interpretations. But the pyramid's strange position within Amenemhat's mortuary plans does raise questions. It was unusual for a king to begin a tomb and then entirely discard it. In most cases, alternate uses or subsidiary functions were devised. Here, we see a full and total cessation, a royal project seemingly stripped of its sacred intent. Even more curious is the presence of a small causeway and foundation blocks for a mortuary temple, indicating that at least the ceremonial components of the complex had begun. Yet they, too, were abandoned. It is as if the entire operation, spiritual and architectural, was interrupted. Some researchers have proposed a sudden death as the cause. Perhaps Amenemhat III perished unexpectedly, leaving his successors to complete burial arrangements elsewhere. But Amenemhat's reign was long, nearly 5 decades. There is no evidence of a sudden demise. In fact, the pyramid at Hawara, his eventual burial site, appears to have been planned meticulously. Not a rushed substitute, but a fully realized and intentionally complex monument. This leads to a more speculative line of thought. What if the pyramid at Dashur was never meant to be completed? What if it was a ritual construct, its incompletion part of a symbolic act? In ancient Egyptian cosmology, creation was an act of order arising from chaos, Maat emerging from Isfet. The pyramid itself, a symbol of stability, power, and divine ascent, was always built to assert that order. But could there have been a counter-symbol, a monument of non-completion representing the limits of human control, the sacred chaos that could not be shaped? There is sparse precedent for such a theory in Egyptian texts, but it isn't entirely out of alignment with Egyptian metaphysics. The ancient Egyptians viewed the world as a delicate balance between order and disorder. Many of their rituals were about containing or delaying the forces of destruction, rather than defeating them entirely. An unfinished pyramid, built but never sealed, may have served, intentionally or accidentally, as a boundary marker, a warning, or even a containment of energies they could not reconcile. Still, such ideas, while compelling, remain speculative. Perhaps the most intriguing feature of the unfinished pyramid is its silence. Unlike the bent pyramid or the red pyramid, both nearby and well studied, the unfinished pyramid receives little attention, even from Egyptologists. Excavations have been limited. Interior passages, if they exist, remain largely unexamined. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have shown anomalies beneath the surface, but none have been fully mapped. What lies beneath this quiet ruin? A collapsed chamber? A sacrificial shaft? Or nothing but sand and intention, a symbol of ambition surrendered? We cannot say for certain. But in the broader tapestry of Egyptian history, this pyramid reminds us of something easily forgotten. Not every story is told through completion. Some are revealed precisely through their abandonment, through the choices that remain unexplained, through the ruins that speak not of failure, but of decisions no longer understood. A pyramid that was never finished, but still feared, and still standing, not as a monument to power, but as a question carved into the earth. What was left behind beneath these stones? What plans were buried before they ever began? And perhaps more haunting still, what was it that the builders saw that made them walk away? The answers, for now, remain buried in silence. But the sands of Dashur are patient, and history, as always, waits to be unearthed. The sun sinks low over Upper Egypt, casting long golden shadows across a desolate plain. Among scattered stones and scrubby brush, something rises, not as sharply as a pyramid, not as grand as a royal tomb, but deliberate, carved with intention. This is no mere ruin. These are the remains of an ancient temple, once vibrant with color and chant, now bleached and silent under centuries of sun. Its walls may have crumbled, but its foundations remain exact. Too exact, because here, in the temple of Esna, or what remains of it, lies a puzzle that has quietly haunted archaeologists and archaeoastronomers for generations. The temple is aligned with astonishing precision, not to the sun, nor to the Nile, nor to any of the known constellations tracked by modern astronomers, but to a star that no longer exists. Unlike the Great Pyramid of Giza, famously aligned with cardinal directions and suspected stellar targets like Orion's Belt or Sirius, this temple doesn't fit comfortably into those models. Its axis deviates ever so slightly from the typical east-west orientation, pointing instead to a celestial target that, when charted backward through precession, appears to have shone in a very different night sky, one we can no longer observe today. For decades, researchers dismissed the misalignment as either coincidence or architectural error, but further measurements, using LiDAR scans and astronomical retrocalculations, revealed something strange. The temple's main axis, measured from the center of the sanctuary through the entrance pylon, points not to any star currently visible from Earth, but to a region of the night sky where, millennia ago, a bright, possibly short-lived star may have briefly appeared. Was this a supernova? A collapsed star that once dominated the southern skies before fading from view? Or was it a now dead member of a star cluster unknown to modern catalogs? Something visible for only a few generations of priests and sky watchers? Whatever it was, the builders of the temple went to great lengths to orient their sanctuary toward it. Ancient Egyptian temples were not placed randomly. They were engineered cosmological maps, models of the heavens made in stone, binding the earthly and the divine. The alignment of temples with solstices, lunar cycles, and specific stars is well documented. In some cases, such as the temple of Amun-Re at Karnak, solar light was harnessed during specific moments of the year to illuminate hidden chambers, a celestial event mirroring ritual rebirth. In this light, the orientation of the Esna temple becomes more than architecture. It becomes intention. So why align it to a star that's no longer there? The answer may lie in the records, not the stone inscriptions, but the texts written on fragile papyri, some preserved, many lost. Certain fragments from the later Middle Kingdom speak of a herald star, one that walked alone and died in the sky. No modern star carries that name. Could these ancient scribes have witnessed a stellar death, a supernova exploding in their lifetime, bright enough to be revered, worshipped, and ultimately mourned? In 1006 CE, Arab astronomers and Chinese scholars alike recorded the appearance of such a supernova, SN 1006, visible even in daylight, dominating the sky for weeks. Could something similar have occurred in deep antiquity, around 2000 BCE or earlier? If so, it may have made a profound impact on a priesthood that saw the heavens not as inert space, but as a living realm of gods, signs, and omens. And yet, this idea raises another question, one far more elusive. How did they know? How could they have built such a complex, heavy structure, aligned to a transient celestial event, with the precision of a modern theodolite? Without telescopes, how did they track its movement or fix its coordinates? Did they build the temple after witnessing the star's appearance, or was it constructed in anticipation of it? Some Egyptologists propose a simpler explanation, that the alignment wasn't stellar at all, but symbolic, pointing not to a star, but to a concept, such as the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, often mapped to a mysterious region of the sky west of Orion. The star, in this case, might not have been real, but theological, an astral metaphor engraved into the temple's bones. Others, working from more speculative positions, suggest the builders may have had access to older knowledge, records from a pre-dynastic era, now lost, that contained advanced celestial charts. These ideas border on controversial. There is no evidence of advanced astronomical tools in early dynastic Egypt, no surviving observatories or star mapping devices. But there is the ceiling of Dendera, with its detailed zodiac, its precise planetary glyphs. There are the diagonal star clocks inside coffin lids. There are hints, not proof but patterns, that suggest a deeper, older astronomy beneath the surface of what remains. The possibility that the temple was aligned to a now vanished celestial object raises still more questions. Could such alignments preserve memory in a way texts cannot? Could the temple itself be a monument not to the living star, but to its absence, to the idea of a cosmic loss, marked in stone so that future generations would never forget? Or could this be a case of something more hidden still? A misinterpretation on our part? Are we missing something fundamental about how the ancient Egyptians perceived the sky? Perhaps the temple wasn't oriented to a fixed star, but to a moment, a seasonal convergence, a heliacal rising, a brief flash of alignment between the earthly and the celestial that we no longer understand. There are records from Greco-Roman Egypt much later in time that speak of stars that come and go and rituals designed to call down light from the heavens. While these are often dismissed as poetic metaphors, they suggest a tradition, a belief that the sky is not permanent, but shifting, alive. Could the alignment of the Etched temple be the echo of one such belief? A sacred orientation, not to something that is, but to something that was, or might return. Today, when visitors walk through the remains of that site, few notice the alignment. There are no signs, no indicators. The landscape has shifted, and the temple is crumbling. But for those who know where to look, for those who have stood in the sanctuary and traced the invisible line from stone to sky, the mystery lingers. What star once lit that path? What did the priests see that made them dedicate a temple to its presence? And what does it mean that we can no longer see it? The sky, like the desert, holds its own silences and its own secrets. Some of them are gone. Others are simply waiting. As the sun passes its zenith over the western bank of the Nile, the light shifts across ancient stone, illuminating carvings that time has tried and failed to erase. In temple complexes and tombs scattered from Luxor to Saqqara, we find an architectural detail repeated again and again. A strange, evocative feature that at first glance seems simple, perhaps even decorative. But on closer inspection, these are not mere carvings. They are doors, false doors, immovable, impenetrable, and yet somehow undeniably important. Cut deep into limestone or etched in low relief, these doorways appear in tombs, shrines, and temples across the land of the pharaohs. Always set against a flat wall, always closed, and always oriented with care. They bear offerings, incised trays, and depictions of food, drink, perfume. Inscriptions surround them, names, prayers, invocations to gods and ancestors. And above many of them, a simple image, the seated figure of the tomb's owner, hands outstretched toward the door, as if waiting for something, or someone, on the other side. These are not architectural mistakes. They are intentional constructs, and they form the heart of one of ancient Egypt's most quietly profound mysteries. What are these doors? Why are they everywhere? And most importantly, where do they lead? The earliest false doors appeared during Egypt's Old Kingdom, around the time the Great Pyramids were being constructed. In the tombs of nobles and officials, the mastabas of Saqqara and Giza, they occupy central positions, facing the chapel, aligned with solar and cardinal points, designed not just for ritual display, but for spiritual focus. To the ancient Egyptians, the false door was not false at all. It was believed to be a threshold, a portal between the world of the living and the afterlife. Through it, the Ka, the vital essence of the deceased, could move freely, receiving offerings and maintaining a connection with the realm of the living. In essence, the door was a bridge, one not meant to be opened by hand, but by spirit. But there are aspects of these doors that invite deeper questions. In certain tombs, we find multiple false doors, sometimes 2, 3, even 4, arranged around the interior chamber. Were these intended for different aspects of the soul, for different gods? Or were they spiritual redundancies, ensuring that if one path failed, another might remain open? Some doors bear evidence of use, burn marks, offering residues, signs of repeated ritual action. Others appear pristine, never touched since the day they were sealed. Were these symbolic, or reserved for another kind of visitor? Even more puzzling are the doors found in unexpected places, deep inside walls, in corridors with no ceremonial function, or aligned with no clear ritual axis. Some have no inscriptions at all, no names, no prayers, just a door leading nowhere. What purpose did these serve? Traditional Egyptology explains these anomalies as decorative, symbolic remnants, perhaps copied from earlier traditions, even when their original meanings were lost. But fringe theories, as always, offer more provocative possibilities. Could these doors, particularly those without inscriptions, have served a different kind of access? One theory proposes that some false doors may have functioned as ritual decoys, spiritual misdirection designed to confuse hostile entities. In a cosmology where curses, spirits, and chaotic forces were real dangers, decoy pathways might have been intended to trap or redirect anything unwelcome seeking entry to the tomb. These doors to nowhere could then be guardians in their own right, protective seals against invisible threats. Others speculate on a more architectural mystery. In several sites, especially in the rock-cut tombs of the Valley of the Kings, we find false doors that align with hollow spaces behind them. Voids detected by radar, ground-penetrating scans, or subtle shifts in stone acoustics. These hidden spaces often contain nothing, or have never been accessed at all. Are they simply uncarved rock? Abandoned construction? Or do they suggest that some doors once led somewhere, and that what lies behind has not yet been discovered? In 2015, a team scanning the tomb of Tutankhamun discovered anomalies behind the north wall, anomalies that some believed could represent hidden chambers. A few researchers proposed the presence of a false door leading to an undiscovered room, perhaps even the burial of Queen Nefertiti. Although the theory remains controversial and no chamber has yet been opened, it reignited interest in the idea that some false doors were more than symbolic. And then there are the esoteric interpretations. Certain scholars of comparative religion and ancient ritual suggest that the false doors may represent an early understanding of dimensional thresholds, points where ritual, intention, and architecture intersected to create access between realms of consciousness. These ideas align with what some call sacred technology, the belief that ancient structures weren't just physical spaces, but engineered spiritual machines. Could it be that these doors weren't meant to open in any physical sense, but instead served as resonant points for spiritual or energetic exchange? In this view, the inscriptions, the orientation, even the materials of the stone would function like coded instructions, activating the doorway through ceremony and belief. Is it possible, then, that what appears to lead nowhere once led everywhere? The visual symbolism of the false door persists throughout Egyptian art. In funerary stelae, we see the same doorway repeated, sometimes flanked by offerings, sometimes as the backdrop for the entire scene. It suggests an enduring belief that access to the divine realm, or to the ancestors, was never severed, only hidden. Modern architecture echoes this idea in unexpected ways. Thresholds that imply transition, framed spaces that suggest passage. In the ancient Egyptian worldview, where nothing truly ended and everything existed in cycles, perhaps the door was not a path forward, but a path inward. So what are we left with? A structure that appears solid, but was believed to be permeable. A design that repeats across centuries yet never quite explains itself. A door that leads nowhere, and yet is feared, revered, and honored, as if it still has the power to open. Are these doors echoes of a forgotten technology? Ritual tools? Or simply expressions of belief, carved into stone with such confidence that their purpose remains intact? Even when the culture that made them has vanished, we may never know. But in the half-light of tombs and temples, the doors still stand, silent, closed, waiting. As the harsh Egyptian sun retreats behind the jagged horizon of the desert plateau, a solitary silhouette stands against the fading light, a pyramid unlike any other. Unlike the colossal monuments at Giza or the well-documented complexes of the Old Kingdom, this pyramid holds a secret as old as the sands themselves. No entrance has ever been found. The Pyramid of Sekhemkhet, often overshadowed by its more famous neighbors, rises modestly from the desert floor at Saqqara. Its sides, though steep and imposing, are rough and unfinished, marked by centuries of erosion and the passage of countless explorers. But unlike other pyramids, whose grand entrances and internal chambers have been mapped and studied, Sekhemkhet's remains a mystery wrapped in stone, a monument without a door. The pharaoh Sekhemkhet ruled during Egypt's third dynasty, a time of political consolidation and architectural experimentation. His reign was brief, his legacy shadowed by his predecessor Djoser, whose step pyramid nearby remains one of the most studied structures in history. Sekhemkhet's pyramid, however, was abandoned unfinished, a fact that has puzzled archaeologists for over a century. Yet, the more intriguing mystery lies in the absence. No visible entrance, no known passageway, and no clear way into the heart of the pyramid. Early excavations revealed a subterranean network of tunnels and chambers beneath the pyramid's base, carved deep into the bedrock. These underground spaces hint at a burial complex designed with considerable care and ambition. Among them, archaeologists discovered a sarcophagus, a partially dismantled burial chamber, and signs of ritual activity. But frustratingly, these chambers were accessible only through narrow shafts, not through a grand entrance like those of other pyramids. How did the ancient builders intend for visitors, priests, or even looters to access the tomb? Was the pyramid meant to remain sealed, accessible only through hidden shafts? Or does the missing entrance lie concealed somewhere on the exterior, yet to be uncovered by modern science? Theories abound. Some scholars propose that the entrance was deliberately hidden, a sophisticated protective measure designed to thwart tomb robbers. The early dynastic Egyptians were all too familiar with grave looting, and some tombs exhibit advanced security features, false passages, hidden chambers, and deliberate traps. Could Sekhemkhet's pyramid have been designed as a fortress of stone, a tomb so secret that even today it guards its secrets fiercely? Others suggest that the entrance may have been destroyed or buried beneath millennia of sand and debris, waiting for a new generation of archaeologists with advanced technology to uncover it. But as modern technology advances, with ground-penetrating radar, 3D scanning, and subsurface imaging, the mystery deepens rather than clarifies. Surveys have revealed irregular voids and anomalies beneath the pyramid, but none clearly identify an entrance or main corridor. Could these be natural cavities or remnants of collapsed chambers? Or is the pyramid hiding something far more elusive, a hidden passage, a sealed vault, or even a symbolic non-entrance meant to prevent any access at all? The design of Sekhemkhet's pyramid is itself unusual. Unlike the sharply stepped profile of Djoser's nearby tomb, this pyramid was intended to be smooth-sided, an architectural transition toward the classical pyramid shape later perfected by Sneferu and Khufu. But the rough finish and partial construction raise questions about whether the builders abandoned the project, or if construction was halted for political or religious reasons. Could Sekhemkhet's sudden death have forced the abandonment? Or was the project intentionally left incomplete as part of a ritual statement, a symbolic monument to the transient nature of kingship or life itself? There is also speculation about the subterranean chambers, which some believe may contain ritual significance beyond a simple tomb. The complexity of the underground layout hints at ceremonies designed to guide the pharaoh's spirit through the afterlife, an ancient map encoded in stone and shadow. If the pyramid's surface entrance remains hidden, Is it possible that the true gateway lies below ground, accessible only to those who knew the secret rites? More speculative interpretations push the mystery even further. Could the missing entrance symbolize a spiritual concept? The idea of a ruler who transcended death, entering the afterlife without passage through conventional means? In Egyptian mythology, the Pharaoh was both mortal and divine, a living god whose journey to the stars was fraught with symbolic trials. Perhaps the pyramid's concealed entrance reflects that duality, an earthly monument designed not for physical access, but as a metaphysical portal. In recent years, some researchers have pointed to architectural anomalies surrounding Sekhemkhet's pyramid, alignments with celestial bodies, subtle magnetic variations, and patterns that hint at lost knowledge. These observations suggest that the pyramid may have been part of a larger cosmic plan, a structure tuned to the heavens and the cycles of time. Yet the absence of a found entrance remains the puzzle's core. Is this simply a product of decay and time, the inevitable erosion of millennia hiding a once obvious doorway? Or did Sekhemkhet's architects deliberately design a monument that would confound and protect, an eternal secret carved into the earth? As explorers, archaeologists, and scholars continue to probe the pyramid's mysteries, the silence of its stone walls invites us to wonder. What waits beyond that hidden door? Are there undiscovered chambers holding treasures, records, or secrets that could reshape our understanding of Egypt's past? Or is the pyramid itself the message, a riddle etched in limestone, inviting us to look beyond physical entrances, to consider the deeper thresholds of time, memory, and mortality? The Pyramid of Sekhemkhet stands, half-finished and unopened, a silent sentinel to the mysteries of an ancient world. It guards its secrets jealously, reminding us that some doors are not meant to be found, at least not yet. The desert keeps its watch, and the sands hold their breath. And somewhere beneath that ancient monument, a hidden gateway may still be waiting to reveal its story. The desert wind carries a whisper across the ruins of a once great city. Here, beneath the burning Egyptian sun and the endless blue sky, lies a mystery draped in silence, a queen whose name has vanished from history, yet whose lost crown is said to hold a secret lost to time. Unlike the monumental legacies of Tutankhamun or Nefertiti, this queen's reign is barely a shadow in the surviving texts. Her story unwritten, her presence erased. In the labyrinthine archives of Egyptian antiquity, where stone tablets, temple walls, and papyrus scrolls preserve tales of gods and kings, the absence of her name is itself a puzzle. Yet scattered hints suggest that once, long ago, a magnificent crown, richly adorned with gold, precious stones, and sacred symbols, was forged for a queen who ruled in the shadows. A crown that vanished, along with her, swallowed by time and silence. Our journey begins in the Valley of the Queens, a burial ground less famous than its northern counterpart but no less enigmatic. Among the tombs, there is one tomb that defies easy identification. Unlike the others adorned with vibrant paintings and inscriptions praising the deceased, this tomb is stark, its walls bare, its chambers mysteriously unfinished. The owner remains unknown. Could this be the resting place of the queen whose crown was lost? Archaeologists have long debated the identity of the tomb's occupant. Some suggest it belonged to a minor consort. Others propose it was deliberately stripped and concealed. The lack of inscriptions may point to damnatio memoriae, the deliberate erasure of memory by political rivals or successors. Yet, if her name is lost, what became of her crown? In Egyptian royal culture, the crown was not merely decorative. It was a powerful symbol, a tangible sign of divine authority and legitimacy. Each crown bore sacred meanings: the white crown of Upper Egypt, the red crown of Lower Egypt, or the composite pshent symbolizing the unification of the two lands. But beyond these, queens often wore crowns decorated with uraeus serpents, lotus flowers, and other potent emblems, each telling a story of their role in the cosmic order. The disappearance of such a crown suggests more than simple loss. It hints at a deliberate removal, perhaps to erase the queen's memory or to hide a secret encoded within the jewel-encrusted circlet. Historical records do mention queens who vanished from official lists or whose influence was later minimized. Yet none quite fit the description of this lost figure. Was she a regent, a co-ruler, or even a ruler in her own right, like Hatshepsut, whose reign challenged the conventions of her time and whose legacy was threatened by later rulers? Unlike Hatshepsut, whose monuments were defaced but remain well documented, our mystery queen seems to have disappeared without a trace. Could her crown hold the key to understanding her story? The crown itself remains elusive. No definitive artifact matching its description has been recovered from tombs or temple treasuries. However, scattered fragments of golden diadems and enigmatic jeweled fragments, often dismissed as remnants of unknown status, might belong to this lost crown. Some pieces bear unusual iconography, intertwined serpents unlike the familiar uraeus, or symbols that do not correspond with established Egyptian motifs. This leads to tantalizing speculation. Was her crown a blend of Egyptian tradition and foreign influence? Could it represent an alliance, a dynastic marriage, or a cultural fusion lost to time? Or might it have been a ceremonial object of secret ritual importance, perhaps linked to mysteries or cults that mainstream history overlooked? Beyond archaeological puzzles, the legend of the lost crown feeds into broader questions about power, memory, and history. Why would a queen, and her crown, be erased so completely? Some scholars point to the turbulent politics of Egypt's late period and the Third Intermediate Period, eras marked by fragmentation, foreign invasions, and internal strife. It was a time when dynasties rose and fell quickly, and rulers sought to legitimize their reigns by rewriting or suppressing the past. Perhaps this queen's legacy was erased because she represented a rival faction, a contested lineage, or a spiritual threat to the reigning powers. Others consider more esoteric possibilities. Could the crown itself have held symbolic or even magical properties? Egyptian royal regalia was deeply tied to divine power, and some texts hint at crowns imbued with protective or transformative energies. Might this lost crown have been a talisman of extraordinary power, so much so that its disappearance was necessary to prevent its misuse? Stories passed down through generations, oral histories preserved by temple priests or whispered in secret rites, sometimes speak of a crown of shadows or a silent diadem, objects that conferred the wearer with unseen authority and connection to the divine realm. Could these legends reflect an oral memory of the lost crown? If so, what does this suggest about the nature of kingship and queenship in ancient Egypt? Was power confined to visible monuments and inscriptions? Or did it also flow through hidden symbols and sacred artifacts, whose meaning only initiates or certain priesthoods fully understood? The enigma of the lost crown invites us to ponder the fragility of history itself. In a culture famed for its monumental records, what does it mean when a figure is erased so thoroughly? What truths might still lie buried beneath the sands, hidden in unexcavated tombs, lost artifacts, or undeciphered texts? As we trace the faint outlines of a queen's vanished legacy, we are reminded that history is not just the story of those who have been remembered, but also of those who have been forgotten. And sometimes the greatest mysteries lie in those silences, waiting to be rediscovered. Beneath the dim glow of carefully controlled lights in a quiet, climate-controlled museum chamber, an ancient mummy lies in stillness. Wrapped in linen that has endured millennia, its bandages hold secrets far deeper than the mere preservation of flesh. Among the layers of cloth, experts have recently uncovered something extraordinary. A map. But not the kind of map one might expect. No etched papyrus or carved stone tablet. Instead, a map woven into the very fabric that enveloped the dead, offering tantalizing clues to a mystery still very much alive. This discovery invites us to look beyond the surface of ancient funerary practices, urging us to reconsider what the wrappings themselves might represent. Could they have served not only as protection for the body, but as a guide, perhaps a spiritual or physical roadmap, intended to direct the deceased on their journey through the afterlife? And if so, what exactly did this map depict, and why was it hidden in plain sight, wrapped around a long-dead individual? The practice of mummification is among the most iconic elements of ancient Egyptian culture. Designed to preserve the body for eternity, the process was both sacred and methodical. Linen bandages, carefully treated and layered, held the mummy's form, while amulets and magical inscriptions were embedded within, intended to safeguard the soul and body alike. But until recently, the idea that these wrappings could contain encoded information, such as maps, was largely unexplored. The discovery arose when conservationists noticed unusual markings beneath the outermost layers of linen on a mummy dating back to the late period, roughly 700 BCE. Through infrared imaging and careful unwrapping, patterns began to emerge. Lines, shapes, and symbols arranged in ways that seemed far more deliberate than random decorative motifs. These markings resembled schematic diagrams, possibly representing geographical features, architectural layouts, or celestial charts. Yet their true meaning remains elusive. Traditional Egyptology interprets the map-like imagery as symbolic rather than literal. The ancient Egyptians viewed the journey after death as a passage through realms fraught with dangers and guarded by deities. Religious texts such as the Book of the Dead contain spells and illustrations meant to guide the soul through these realms. Could these woven maps serve a similar function, acting as a tangible guide for the spirit, physically attached to the body as a navigational aid through the challenges of the underworld? If so, it would represent a fascinating intersection of practical funerary art and metaphysical belief. Yet the implications deepen when we consider the possibility that the map might not only be spiritual, but also geographical. Some scholars have suggested that the markings correspond to real-world locations, perhaps sacred sites, lost temples, or hidden tombs. Might the linen hold coded information about places significant to the deceased, or places tied to ancient religious rites? Could it have been a form of cartographic memory, preserving knowledge that was otherwise lost in time? This possibility leads us down a more speculative path. The idea that ancient Egyptians might have concealed valuable geographic information within funerary wrappings, protecting secrets from the living while ensuring their transmission to favored heirs or priests. Adding complexity to this mystery is the identity of the mummy itself. The individual was a priest of relatively high status, but their name remains fragmentary, further shrouding the narrative in uncertainty. Was this person a guardian of secret knowledge? A keeper of esoteric wisdom? Tasked with safeguarding sacred places from discovery or desecration? The map, then, becomes not only a guide for the soul, but a key to terrestrial secrets, possibly encoded in symbols only decipherable by those with specialized knowledge. Modern technology has been crucial in unveiling this secret, but it has also highlighted how much remains to be understood. Spectral imaging, multispectral analysis, and even digital reconstruction have exposed intricate details invisible to the naked eye. Yet interpretations vary widely. While some experts emphasize religious symbolism, others lean toward practical cartography or ritualistic magic. This divergence exemplifies the challenge of interpreting artifacts born from a culture so removed from modern sensibilities, yet so intricately connected to concepts of death, rebirth, and divine order. The notion that an ancient map could be hidden within a mummy's wrappings invites us to reconsider how we understand ancient knowledge transmission. Could these maps serve dual purposes: sacred navigation through the afterlife and secret terrestrial cartography? And if so, why choose the mummy's wrappings as a medium? Perhaps it was believed that the sacred linen, intimately tied to the deceased's body and spirit, was the only safe place to encode such knowledge. Or maybe, by intertwining physical and metaphysical realms, the map's creators ensured the survival of their secrets across time and space, sealed within the eternal coffin of death itself. As the layers of linen continue to reveal their ancient inscriptions, the mystery unfolds like a slowly whispered secret. What stories remain hidden beneath the surface? What locations, truths, or sacred sites await rediscovery guided by this enigmatic map? Is it a practical guide lost to the ages, a spiritual roadmap to the afterlife, or a complex fusion of both? Could this be a singular find, or merely the first glimpse into a broader tradition of encoding knowledge in unexpected places? The answers remain elusive, suspended between history and legend, science and spirituality. In the silent chambers of the past, wrapped tight in linen and mystery, the map endures, waiting to be deciphered, inviting us to explore what lies beyond the known and to ponder the secrets still bound within ancient threads. Deep within the ancient stone chambers of Egypt's necropolises, there is a phenomenon that defies straightforward explanation, an acoustic mystery embedded in the very architecture of the tombs. Step quietly into certain burial chambers, and you may hear something remarkable: sound waves that resonate, amplify, and behave in ways unlike anywhere else. Sounds, whether whispered voices, low tones, or music, seem to linger, swirl, and fold back upon themselves, creating an eerie, almost otherworldly atmosphere. The tomb becomes more than a resting place. It transforms into a chamber of living sound. This acoustic peculiarity has fascinated archaeologists, engineers, and acoustic experts alike. It suggests a level of architectural sophistication that reaches beyond mere construction for burial or ritual. Instead, it hints at an ancient understanding of sound as a medium with spiritual or practical significance. But what exactly did the Egyptians intend with this sonic design? And how did they achieve it with the tools and knowledge of their time? The discovery of these acoustic effects dates back decades, but only recently have scientists begun to study them systematically. Using modern sound analysis equipment, teams have measured the unique resonances inside tombs at Saqqara, the Valley of the Kings, and elsewhere. They have identified frequencies that seem to be enhanced or trapped within specific chamber geometries. Some resonances align with frequencies known today to affect human brainwaves, potentially inducing trance-like or meditative states. Could the ancient Egyptians have designed these tombs intentionally as spaces where sound could influence consciousness? If so, were these soundscapes part of the rituals to guide the deceased's soul through the afterlife? Or were they designed for the living, priests or mourners performing ceremonies that used acoustic effects to connect with divine realms? At the heart of this mystery is the relationship between architecture and sound. The dimensions of certain tombs and burial chambers correspond to natural acoustic frequencies. Some spaces, shaped by precise angles and smooth limestone surfaces, create standing waves that amplify particular pitches while muting others. This phenomenon, known in modern acoustics as a resonant cavity, can cause sounds to hover and echo unusually long. Among the most studied examples is the tomb of Pharaoh Seti I in the Valley of the Kings. Here, a subtle hum can be heard when tones are played or spoken in particular spots, creating an immersive acoustic environment. Similarly, In some smaller, lesser-known tombs, the geometry causes sound to behave unpredictably, concentrating energy in corners or focusing it toward niches where statues or sarcophagi rest. The explanations offered by traditional archaeology and physics focus on practical factors: the need for large, sealed spaces, the properties of stone materials, and the accidental creation of sound effects through architectural constraints. But these explanations, while plausible, do not fully address the consistency of such acoustic features across widely separated sites. Moreover, inscriptions and ancient texts sometimes allude to voices of the gods or chanting winds within tombs, phrases that might describe these acoustic experiences. Could the acoustic design have been an intentional form of sound engineering to enhance religious experience? Speculative theories propose that these resonances might have been part of an ancient sonic technology used to awaken spiritual forces or facilitate communication between the living and the dead. Some researchers have drawn parallels between the tomb acoustics and ritual chant traditions still preserved in parts of Egypt and neighboring regions, suggesting a continuity of sound-based ritual practice dating back thousands of years. Others explore even more enigmatic ideas. Could the acoustic properties have been designed to protect the tomb, creating frequencies that deterred intruders or disturbed malevolent spirits? Might the sound signatures embedded in these chambers have been considered magical seals, part of the tomb's sacred defenses? Adding to the mystery are tombs where sound behaves differently depending on time of day or even the position of the sun. Certain resonances intensify at dawn or dusk, or during specific astronomical alignments, hinting at a fusion of acoustic design with ancient Egyptian cosmology. Could these tombs have functioned as instruments tuned to celestial rhythms, merging sound and star worship? The intersection of sound, light, and architecture suggests a profound integration of natural phenomena in Egyptian ritual spaces, far beyond our modern assumptions. Yet, as compelling as these possibilities are, definitive answers remain elusive. The precise intent behind these acoustic features is not recorded explicitly in surviving texts, and the tools to fully reconstruct the ancient soundscapes are still evolving. Even the physical state of many tombs, damaged by time, looting, and environmental change, complicates efforts to recreate original conditions. What we do know is that these sound phenomena are not isolated curiosities. They are found in multiple tombs, temples, and ritual sites, suggesting a deliberate pattern. They reveal a culture deeply attuned to sensory experience, where sound may have been as potent a tool as stone or script in shaping belief and guiding the soul's journey. As we stand in these silent chambers today, our voices softened by reverence and wonder, we find ourselves caught in a web of sound and silence, of mystery and revelation. What truths resonate in the echoes of these ancient stones? What knowledge has been carried in these reverberations for thousands of years, waiting, perhaps, for us to listen closely enough? The tombs still hold their secrets, wrapped in stone and sound, inviting us to explore the ancient symphony they quietly play. In the shifting sands of Egypt's vast deserts, where the past lies buried beneath layers of time and dust, stories emerge that challenge our understanding of history. One such story is that of a burial site discovered with great excitement, only to disappear without explanation, as if swallowed whole by the earth overnight. This puzzling event remains one of Egyptology's most confounding mysteries, a haunting episode that raises profound questions about what we think we know and what may still be concealed beneath the desert's endless expanse. The tale begins with a team of archaeologists working in a remote, little-explored area near the Nile Valley. Using a combination of satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and traditional excavation techniques, the researchers uncovered what appeared to be an intact burial complex, complete with ornate chambers, funerary artifacts, and the unmistakable signs of royal or noble interment. The find promised to rewrite chapters of Egyptian history, offering new insights into burial rites, social hierarchies, and ancient politics. Yet, when the site was revisited mere hours later, all evidence of the complex had vanished. The carefully mapped entrance was gone. The tracks and tools left by the archaeologists had disappeared. The desert had seemingly reclaimed the tomb, erasing it as thoroughly as if it had never been found. At first, explanations ranged from the plausible to the extraordinary. Could a sudden sandstorm have buried the site under a fresh, shifting layer of dunes? The desert is known for its unpredictable winds and rapid terrain changes, but such complete obliteration of an excavation site in a matter of hours defies common experience. Archaeologists who have worked in these conditions note that, while sandstorms can indeed cover surfaces quickly, the disappearance of large structural features and physical traces is almost unheard of in such a short span. Others suggested human intervention. Was the site deliberately concealed or removed by rival treasure hunters, local tribes, or officials seeking to keep the discovery secret? The politics of archaeology in Egypt are complex, often entangled with issues of heritage, ownership, and national pride. However, the area was under tight security during the excavation, making stealthy tampering unlikely. What remains undisputed is that detailed photographic evidence and preliminary documentation of the site exist. Images showing walls adorned with faint hieroglyphs, coffins resting in place, and the glint of gold artifacts. These records fuel both fascination and skepticism. Could the disappearance be a hoax, a fabrication designed to create intrigue? Experts who have examined the documentation largely agree on its authenticity, but the enigma persists. If the site was real, what could cause it to vanish so completely and so swiftly? Among the more speculative theories is the idea that the burial site itself was somehow protected by an ancient mechanism, a hidden defensive system designed to preserve the sanctity of the tomb by erasing its physical presence when threatened. Throughout Egyptian history, elaborate tombs were often equipped with traps, secret passages, and false chambers intended to mislead or deter robbers. Could there have been a more sophisticated system, perhaps activated by the disturbance of the site, that caused the burial complex to disappear, whether through mechanical means or by triggering collapses that concealed it beneath rubble and sand? Others turn to the possibility of natural geological phenomena. Egypt's desert landscape is shaped not only by sand but by layers of limestone, sandstone, and softer sediment. Underground caves and voids are common, and the collapse of subterranean chambers is a known hazard. Could the tomb have been built atop a fragile cavern, which collapsed soon after discovery, swallowing the entire site? If so, this might explain the sudden loss. But the timing and scale of such a collapse remain extraordinary. A more enigmatic theory explores metaphysical interpretations, drawing on Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife and the power of sacred spaces. In this view, the tomb's disappearance may be seen as a protective act by the spirits guarding the site, or as a manifestation of a curse designed to deter the unworthy. Ancient texts warn of punishments for those who disturb the dead, and legends of vanishing tombs or hidden cities abound in folklore. Could the tomb have been cloaked in invisibility, not just physically but symbolically, to guard its secrets for eternity? Whatever the explanation, the mystery has sparked debate within academic circles and among enthusiasts. It highlights the fragile line between discovery and loss, between knowledge preserved and knowledge hidden. The vanishing burial site serves as a stark reminder of how much of Egypt's past remains elusive, and how easily the desert can swallow even the most tantalizing clues. As we reflect on this story, we are invited to consider the nature of history itself. What truths lie buried beneath sands that shift with the winds of time? How much of the ancient world remains just out of reach, hidden not only by the elements, but by forces we have yet to understand. The burial site that was found, and then vanished overnight, continues to captivate imaginations and challenge experts. Its silence speaks louder than any inscription. What else might lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered or lost forever in the endless sands of Egypt? As the heavy stone door grinds open, a cool, shadowed chamber is revealed deep within the heart of an ancient temple. The air is thick with the weight of centuries, yet faintly alive with an eerie luminescence that seems to pulse softly from the very walls themselves. Illuminated not by torchlight or modern bulbs, but by a subtle, otherworldly glow, the hieroglyphs etched across the chamber's surfaces shimmer with an uncanny light that defies simple explanation. This is the Forbidden Room, a space long sealed off from explorers, historians, and the world outside. Its discovery sent ripples through Egyptological circles, challenging assumptions about ancient Egyptian art and technology. The glowing hieroglyphs, unlike any previously documented, call into question the boundaries between myth, craftsmanship, and the lost science of a civilization renowned for its mysteries. The chamber's entrance, hidden behind a false wall and revealed only through meticulous excavation, was found in a temple complex situated on the outskirts of the Nile Valley. The room is small but dense with inscriptions, rows upon rows of symbols narrating stories, prayers, and cryptic messages that stretch along every inch of the limestone walls and ceiling. What makes this room truly extraordinary is not simply the presence of hieroglyphs, but their inexplicable illumination. Unlike painted pigments or carved grooves catching stray light, the glyphs emit a soft radiance visible even in complete darkness. Early investigations ruled out modern contamination. No wires, phosphorescent paints, or artificial light sources were detected. Scientific analysis reveals that the glowing effect may be linked to the minerals present in the stone or pigments used in the carvings. Certain compounds, such as rare phosphorescent minerals, can emit light after exposure to sunlight. However, the intensity and uniformity of the glow within the chamber exceed what would be expected from natural luminescence alone. Was this light a deliberate effect engineered by the ancient craftsmen? If so, what purpose could it serve? Ancient Egyptian culture was deeply symbolic, weaving layers of meaning into its art and architecture. Light and darkness were potent metaphors, representing life, death, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Could the glowing hieroglyphs have been designed as a form of sacred illumination, meant to animate the words of the gods in the very realm of the dead? The idea is compelling. By creating a space where inscriptions glow with their own light, the ancient Egyptians might have intended to evoke the presence of divine power, an eternal flame carved in stone, shining as a beacon for the soul's journey. Yet, beyond religious symbolism, the craftsmanship itself suggests a level of technological sophistication not commonly attributed to the period. The precision with which the glyphs are incised, combined with the uniform glow, points to materials or techniques now lost to time. Some researchers propose the use of bioluminescent substances derived from plants or minerals, though no conclusive evidence has yet confirmed this. Theories vary. Could the artisans have harnessed natural radioactive minerals, such as uranium-bearing compounds, which are known to emit a faint glow? Or might they have used a form of early photoluminescent paint, applied in layers and activated by the temple's specific lighting conditions? Adding to the enigma are ancient texts that reference writing of light and words that shine in the dark, phrases often dismissed as metaphorical or poetic. However, the glowing hieroglyphs suggest that such descriptions may have been grounded in real phenomena, preserved in secret chambers like this forbidden room. Was this glow a spiritual experience crafted to inspire awe and reverence? Or was it a form of coded knowledge, designed to be seen only by select initiates who understood the chamber's secrets? Speculative interpretations extend into the realm of mysticism and alternative history. Some propose that the glowing glyphs are evidence of an ancient science, possibly linked to lost technologies or contact with otherworldly forces. While such ideas remain on the fringe, they speak to the enduring human fascination with light as a symbol of knowledge and transcendence. Despite modern scientific efforts, much about the glowing hieroglyphs remains unresolved. The room itself was quickly resealed to preserve its delicate condition, limiting extensive experimentation. What materials were used? How was the glow maintained over thousands of years? And crucially, what messages do the illuminated symbols convey? As researchers continue to study the chamber through non-invasive means, the glowing hieroglyphs invite us into a world where art and light converge, where ancient hands crafted not only words but living illumination. They remind us that beneath the known history of Egypt, countless mysteries still flicker, hidden in shadowed rooms and waiting to reveal their secrets to those who dare to look closely. In the silence of this forbidden chamber, light persists. It glimmers with the power of stories untold and knowledge yet to be uncovered. What truths might these luminous glyphs hold? And what other marvels remain locked away, glowing softly in the depths of Egypt's ancient past? In the flickering light of oil lamps, deep within the shadowed sanctum of an ancient temple, a figure clad in ceremonial robes stood at the threshold of the unknown. The air was thick with incense and the weight of sacred tradition. This was no ordinary moment. This was a ritual of profound significance, meant to bridge the earthly and divine realms. Yet, as witnesses would later recount, the priest at the center of this solemn rite vanished suddenly, leaving behind nothing but questions and a silence that has echoed through millennia. The story of the priest who disappeared mid-ritual is one of Egyptology's most haunting enigmas. It invites us to consider not just the physical mysteries of ancient Egypt, but the intangible boundary between life, death, and the spiritual unknown. Who was this priest? And what was the nature of the ceremony that ended in his abrupt disappearance? Could this event be explained by earthly phenomena? Or does it hint at something far more elusive? This enigmatic tale originates from a series of inscriptions and fragmentary papyrus records found in the temple complex at Abydos, one of Egypt's oldest and most sacred sites. The texts describe a high-ranking priest, revered for his wisdom and deep knowledge of arcane rites, who was conducting a ritual designed to invoke the protection of Osiris, the god of the afterlife. The ceremony was believed to renew the temple's spiritual power and secure blessings for the kingdom. As the ritual reached its climax, the accounts report an unprecedented event. The priest, while chanting sacred hymns and offering invocations, simply vanished from sight. Eyewitnesses described a sudden shimmering in the air, a faint sound like a breath or a whisper, and then nothing. No struggle, no trace of movement, no evidence of escape or harm, only absence. Scholars have debated the reliability and interpretation of these ancient records. Were these descriptions allegorical, poetic expressions of divine favor? Or did they record an actual, extraordinary event witnessed by many? Some have suggested that the disappearance could have been staged, part of an elaborate ritual performance meant to awe participants and reinforce the priest's spiritual authority. Illusions, sleight of hand, or hidden passages might have been used to create the impression of vanishing. Temples often contained secret chambers and corridors, and priests were trained in theatrical elements as part of their liturgical duties. Yet, the physical evidence within the temple complex offers no indication of concealed exits or traps near the ritual chamber. Archaeologists have uncovered no hidden doors or tunnels that align with the descriptions. The temple's layout is unusually straightforward, emphasizing openness rather than concealment. This absence of a practical explanation deepens the mystery. Some researchers consider natural explanations involving sensory phenomena. The intense concentration of participants, combined with dim lighting, smoke from incense, and repetitive chants, might have induced trance states or hallucinations. Could collective psychological effects have shaped a shared vision of disappearance? Even so, this theory struggles to account for the abruptness and physicality implied in the texts. The priest's disappearance was described as sudden and complete, not merely a perceptual illusion. This leads to more speculative realms of thought. Ancient Egyptian spirituality was deeply invested in the concept of transformation, death and rebirth as metaphors for cosmic cycles. Could the priest's vanishing be understood as a literal passage into another dimension or plane of existence? Some suggest that the ritual might have been intended not only to communicate with the divine, but to transcend human limits. Was the priest believed to have achieved a form of spiritual ascension, physically stepping beyond the mortal world? If so, this event would represent one of the most extraordinary intersections of faith and reality ever recorded. Others have drawn parallels to Egyptian beliefs in Ka and Ba, aspects of the soul that could separate from the body and travel the realms of the dead. Did the ritual somehow facilitate this journey, allowing the priest's essence to leave his physical form? Or did some unforeseen spiritual force intervene? The temple inscriptions hint at subsequent attempts to restore balance following the disappearance. Rituals were performed to call the priest back or to appease divine powers offended or disturbed by the event. Yet, the priest never returned, and his fate remains undocumented. What then are we to make of this story? Is it a record of a vanished man, lost to the hidden corridors of a vast temple, a spiritual allegory encoded in metaphor, or a glimpse into an ancient mystery that challenges the boundaries between the known and the unknowable? As we consider the priest who disappeared mid-ritual, we are drawn into a silent chamber where history, faith, and mystery intertwine. What lies beyond the veil he crossed? And how many such mysteries linger in the shadows of Egypt's ancient temples, waiting patiently for us to seek them out? The story remains open, an invitation to wonder, explore, and question the limits of human experience and ancient wisdom alike. The desert night in Egypt is vast and silent, a sea of shadows under the watchful gaze of the stars and the slow, steady glow of the moon. It is here, beneath the cool light of a full lunar sky, that some of Egypt's most elusive secrets reveal themselves, not under the harsh glare of the sun, but in the quiet glow of night. Among these enigmas are glyphs, inscriptions etched into stone walls and temple facades, which remain invisible by day and emerge only when bathed in moonlight. This phenomenon, the sudden appearance of glowing or shimmering hieroglyphs, is as captivating as it is puzzling. It challenges our understanding of ancient Egyptian artistry and symbolism, and it hints at a deeper relationship between light, time, and sacred knowledge. What were these glyphs meant to convey, and why would they reveal themselves only under the moon's pale illumination? The first documented observations of these glyphs come from a remote temple complex near the edge of the western desert. Archaeologists visiting the site noticed that certain inscriptions, previously unnoticed in daylight, began to manifest a faint but unmistakable luminescence after dusk. As the moon rose, delicate symbols and patterns became visible, etchings that seemed to breathe with an ethereal light, tracing out narratives lost to the waking eye. Careful studies ruled out modern interference or artificial lighting. The glow was subtle, almost shy, emerging only when moonlight struck the stones at precise angles. This nocturnal unveiling suggested a sophisticated interplay between natural light and ancient craftsmanship, as though the Egyptians designed these glyphs to be read not by the sun, but by the stars and moon. The practical explanations offered include the possibility of specialized materials used in the carving or pigments applied to the stone that respond to ultraviolet light or reflect moonlight in unique ways. Certain minerals, such as calcite or gypsum, can refract light differently, causing shadows and highlights to shift dramatically between day and night. The Egyptians, known masters of stonework and optics, might have exploited such properties intentionally. Yet, the subtlety and precision of these nocturnal glyphs suggest more than mere artistry. Could they have served a ritualistic or symbolic purpose, accessible only to initiates who understood the importance of the lunar cycle? The moon held immense significance in ancient Egyptian cosmology. It was the symbol of Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and magic, as well as Khonsu, the god of the moon and time. Lunar cycles governed agricultural practices, religious festivals, and the timing of sacred ceremonies. The selective visibility of these glyphs under moonlight might have been an esoteric code, a message meant to be unlocked only when the celestial conditions aligned. Were these glyphs a secret language revealed to priests or royalty during specific lunar phases? Or perhaps a celestial calendar carved in stone, marking times when the veil between worlds was thinnest? Speculative interpretations expand further into the mystical. Some suggest that the moonlight-activated glyphs served as spiritual conduits, channels for cosmic energy or divine messages. The inscriptions may have been intended to guide the soul's journey in the afterlife, or to protect sacred spaces from malevolent forces, visible only when the moon's power was strongest. This interplay of light and shadow reflects ancient Egyptians' profound understanding of the natural world as a mirror of the divine, a place where physical phenomena and spiritual truths converge. Intriguingly, these glyphs sometimes appear in locations associated with funerary rites or temple chambers dedicated to gods of the night and underworld. Their emergence under moonlight may have been a deliberate connection to themes of death, rebirth, and transformation, echoing the nightly disappearance and return of the moon itself. Could the glyphs be part of a cosmic ritual, marking moments when the living could communicate with the spirits, or when the boundaries between time and eternity blurred? Modern researchers continue to investigate the phenomenon using advanced imaging techniques, spectral analysis, and precise astronomical calculations. These efforts aim to understand how the glyph's visibility correlates with lunar phases, angles, and atmospheric conditions. Yet despite growing data, definitive explanations remain elusive. What pigments or stone treatments were used? How did ancient craftsmen ensure the glyph's hidden illumination would endure millennia? And most mysteriously, what knowledge or power did the Egyptians intend to encode in these nocturnal symbols? As night falls once again over Egypt's timeless landscape, the moon casts its silvery glow across ancient stones, inviting us to look closer, to wait patiently, and to discover the whispers of a civilization that spoke not only with words, but with light itself. The glyphs that appear only under moonlight remind us that history is not always revealed in daylight. Sometimes it waits in the shadows, in moments of quiet reflection and celestial alignment, offering secrets to those who dare to watch the night and listen for what cannot be seen by the sun. What truths are still hidden beneath the soft glow of the moon? What stories do these silent symbols tell, only to those who meet them in the dark? The mystery remains, an invitation to continue exploring the depths of Egypt's ancient enigma. As the lid of an ancient sarcophagus is slowly lifted, a hush falls over the room. The air is heavy with the scent of antiquity, a mixture of aged wood, preserved linens, and centuries-old incense. Inside, alongside the carefully mummified remains, lie objects that defy simple explanation. Clusters of crystals, shimmering faintly even in the dim light, their surfaces catching the flicker of lamps in a way that suggests a presence beyond mere decoration. These mysterious crystals, nestled within tombs and coffins across Egypt, have puzzled archaeologists and scientists alike, raising profound questions about their purpose and origin. The discovery of crystals in burial sites is not uncommon, yet the types and arrangements found in certain sarcophagi are particularly enigmatic. Rather than random placement, these crystals appear deliberately chosen and positioned, often near vital parts of the body, the chest, the head, or the hands. Their colors and structures vary: quartz, amethyst, calcite, and other crystalline minerals, each with distinctive properties, and sometimes in combinations that seem symbolic or ritualistic. The initial assumption might be that these crystals were simple grave goods, valued for their beauty or rarity. Indeed, precious stones and minerals played important roles in ancient Egyptian culture, as adornments, amulets, and offerings to the gods. However, the patterns in which these crystals are found suggest a more complex story. Scientific analyses reveal that many of the crystals were carefully cut or polished, and some bear minute inscriptions or carvings that are nearly imperceptible to the naked eye. This meticulous craftsmanship implies intentionality and purpose beyond mere ornamentation. What knowledge guided their selection? What role did these crystals play in the funerary rites or in the beliefs about the afterlife? One of the most compelling hypotheses is that these crystals functioned as spiritual or energetic conduits. Ancient Egyptian spirituality was deeply intertwined with the idea that the physical and metaphysical worlds could interact. Crystals, with their geometric forms and ability to refract light, may have been thought to harness or channel divine energies, protecting the deceased on their journey through the underworld or facilitating communication with the gods. Textual evidence hints at the power of certain stones, revered for their supposed ability to heal, ward off evil, or maintain harmony between body and spirit. The Book of the Dead and other funerary texts contain prayers and spells that invoke the protective qualities of precious minerals. Could these crystal clusters have been intended as talismans, safeguarding the soul and preserving the integrity of the body? Yet the mystery deepens when considering the scientific properties of the crystals themselves. Some minerals found in tombs exhibit piezoelectric or pyroelectric effects, capabilities to generate electrical charges under pressure or temperature changes. Could the Egyptians, perhaps through empirical observation, have recognized these phenomena? If so, were the crystals used in some form of ritual technology, an ancient science of energy yet to be fully understood? This line of inquiry opens the door to intriguing, if controversial, theories about lost knowledge. Was ancient Egypt home to a proto-science that blended spirituality and material properties in ways modern science is only beginning to grasp? If these crystals emitted or focused subtle energies, what implications would that have for our understanding of Egyptian burial practices? Further complicating the picture are reports of subtle luminescence or faint glowing observed in crystals recovered from tombs, especially under certain lighting or environmental conditions. Laboratory examinations have struggled to reproduce these effects, suggesting that factors such as the crystal's provenance, impurities, or interaction with other materials may play a role. Was the glow purely natural, or did it hold symbolic significance, perhaps representing life, rebirth, or divine presence? Speculation also extends into more metaphysical realms. Some believe these crystals could have been intended as keys or anchors for the soul, essential in the Egyptian concept of the Ka and Ba, spiritual elements that survive death and seek reunion. The placement of crystals near the heart or head might correspond to centers of spiritual energy, reinforcing the deceased's connection to the living world and the divine. Could the crystals have acted as vessels or conduits for this spiritual essence, preserving identity and consciousness beyond physical decay? If so, what does this reveal about Egyptian beliefs concerning the soul's immortality and the mechanisms designed to support it? Archaeological findings further reveal a striking consistency. These crystals are often accompanied by inscriptions invoking gods associated with protection and resurrection, such as Isis, Osiris, and Anubis. The repeated presence of such texts alongside crystalline deposits suggests a deliberate ritual context, yet the exact ritual use remains elusive. Were the crystals part of ceremonies conducted at burial? Were they activated through chanting or specific rites? And how might the knowledge of such practices have been passed down, guarded, or lost over time? Modern research into these crystals continues to challenge established narratives. Non-invasive imaging techniques and chemical analyses aim to uncover their composition and origin, while attempts to reconstruct ancient rituals seek to understand their functional role. Despite progress, the question lingers: what truths lie hidden within these radiant minerals, locked away in stone and mystery? Are they simply exquisite artifacts or remnants of a profound spiritual technology, an ancient wisdom that bridges science and belief? As we contemplate the crystals found within Egypt's sacred tombs, we peer into a space where matter and spirit intertwine, where the boundary between the known and the unknown blurs. Each crystal is a silent witness, a fragment of a civilization's attempt to conquer death, to preserve identity, and to illuminate the path to eternity. What remains buried in these glowing stones? What secrets might they yet reveal about the soul, the afterlife, and the profound mysteries etched into the heart of ancient Egypt? Along the banks of the ancient Nile, where the fertile land meets the vast desert, the sounds of hammer-striking wood once echoed in a bustling shipyard. This was no ordinary vessel under construction. It was meant to be a grand funerary bark for a pharaoh, an emblem of power, a spiritual chariot intended to carry the ruler's soul across the celestial waters in the afterlife. The stakes were immense, the craftsmanship unparalleled. But then, as if swallowed by the shifting sands or lost to time itself, the ship vanished. The pharaoh's ship, begun with reverence and ambition, was never completed, and its fate remains one of Egypt's most perplexing maritime mysteries. This story begins with archaeological discoveries near Abydos and Giza, sites where remnants of royal shipyards have been unearthed. Among these are partial hulls, fragments of cedar planks, and tools arranged as if the workers had just paused their labors. Yet, despite the evidence of active construction, the finished vessel was never launched. No records or inscriptions mark its completion, and no fully assembled bark matching the scale of the project has ever been found. Scholars have long speculated on the reasons behind the abrupt halt. Some suggest political upheaval. A sudden change in leadership or dynasty might have stalled or canceled the project. Others point to economic difficulties, shortages of materials, or even environmental shifts that rendered the shipyard unusable. But these practical explanations leave unanswered questions about the scale and urgency of royal funerary preparations, which were often the highest priority in Egyptian culture. The significance of funerary ships in Egypt cannot be overstated. These vessels were not mere symbols, but active participants in royal mythology and afterlife beliefs. Pharaohs were thought to travel with the sun god Ra on his daily journey, crossing the skies and underworld by boat. A missing or incomplete ship would seem a profound rupture in the cycle of death and rebirth, an enigma that ancient Egyptians themselves might have found troubling. Intriguingly, ancient texts and depictions sometimes hint at supernatural reasons for such disappearances. Legends speak of divine intervention, curses upon those who dared to build vessels unworthy of the gods, or spirits that claimed unfinished projects. These tales, while symbolic, reflect a deep cultural sense of balance and order, ma'at, that must be maintained. Could it be that the abandonment of the ship was not merely physical, but spiritual? Was there a belief that the project had been rejected by the gods or doomed from the start? Modern investigations into the site reveal unusual anomalies. Some wooden fragments show signs of intense heat or burning, yet no evidence of widespread fire damage in the surrounding area exists. Could this indicate a deliberate ritual destruction? Was the ship set aflame to prevent its use, or as an offering to pacify unseen forces? Adding to the mystery, A few inscriptions carved near the shipyard contain cryptic warnings or symbols that archaeologists have yet to fully decipher. These markings might have been protective curses or enigmatic messages left by ancient workers or priests, an attempt to explain or contain an event beyond their control. Speculation extends further still. Some fringe theories propose that the ship vanished not physically, but into a parallel or spiritual realm. Given the Egyptians' belief in multiple planes of existence and the soul's journey, could the ship have been taken as part of a ritual transition, existing somewhere beyond the physical world? If so, the incomplete hull on Earth might represent only one aspect of a multidimensional passage. The idea that the ship might have been deliberately hidden also surfaces. Was it dismantled and its parts dispersed in secret locations to protect sacred knowledge or treasures? Were the craftsmen instructed to erase all traces to prevent misuse or theft? Such secrecy would be consistent with Egypt's tradition of guarding esoteric knowledge. Despite decades of excavation and study, the pharaoh's vanished ship remains a haunting absence, a silent testament to interrupted ambitions and the enigmatic intersection of earthly craft and divine will. The shipyard, frozen in time, invites us to imagine the workers' final moments. Did they leave in haste, under threat or awe? Did they witness phenomena beyond understanding that forced them to abandon their sacred labor? As we stand on the riverbank, looking out at the shifting waters that have carried countless stories through the ages, the phantom outline of a ship that never sailed lingers in our minds. What secrets do the silent timbers hide? What ancient forces conspired to halt this voyage before it could begin? The mystery of the pharaoh's vanished ship remains open, an enduring riddle afloat in history's depths, calling us to search beneath the surface, to question what truths might still lie submerged in the currents of time. In the heart of the arid desert, beyond the bustling cities and crowded archaeological sites, lies a tomb long sealed against time and intrusion. Its stone facade bears the faint traces of ancient inscriptions, but it is the treasure concealed within that has captured the fascination of scholars and mystics alike. A collection of scrolls, brittle with age, wrapped meticulously in linen and untouched for millennia. Yet these scrolls hold a perplexing secret. They are, to this day, unreadable. The discovery of these enigmatic texts dates back several decades, when a joint Egyptian-European archaeological team carefully breached the tomb's heavy stone door. Unlike other burial sites filled with hieroglyphs, funerary texts, and known scriptures, these scrolls defied immediate interpretation. The symbols etched onto their surfaces bore a resemblance to Egyptian script, but with strange deviations, unknown characters, unexpected alignments, and patterns that resist translation by even the most seasoned Egyptologists. At first glance, these scrolls appear as sacred writings, perhaps a private record of the tomb's occupant, or a forgotten ritual manual. Their material, papyrus of exceptional quality, and the ink's composition suggest they were crafted by skilled scribes. But the script challenges every linguistic framework established for ancient Egyptian writing. The familiar hieratic and demotic forms give way to something different, an undeciphered cipher, a lost language, or a deliberately obscured message. This baffling phenomenon raises profound questions. Was this script invented for secret communication, reserved for the elite few? Could it represent an esoteric dialect, a mystical code intended to shield sacred knowledge from the uninitiated? Or is it perhaps an early attempt at a constructed language, blending known symbols with invented ones to convey hidden meanings? Efforts to decode the scrolls have employed every tool available. High-resolution imaging, spectral analysis, and digital enhancement have revealed nuances invisible to the naked eye, faint corrections, layered ink traces, and intricate geometric layouts within the text. Yet, the deeper researchers delve, the more elusive the meaning becomes. Some scholars suggest the possibility that the scrolls are ritualistic in nature, designed not primarily for reading, but for use in ceremonies, where the act of writing itself held symbolic power. Could these be spell scrolls, their true power lying in the ritual chanting or visualization performed alongside them, rather than the literal words? The context of the tomb adds further layers to the mystery. The sealed chamber is isolated from the usual funerary complexes, located beneath a plateau where few similar artifacts have been found. This isolation hints at secrecy. Was the occupant a priest or a sorcerer, someone entrusted with guarded knowledge? Were these scrolls forbidden texts, preserved carefully to protect their contents from prying eyes or destruction? Beyond textual analysis, some theories venture into metaphysical territory. Could these scrolls encode knowledge of spiritual realms or advanced cosmology understood only through initiation and meditation? Ancient Egyptian religion was rich with symbolic and mystical traditions, where language could transcend spoken words to become a vessel for divine insight. Among the more speculative ideas is the suggestion that these scrolls represent a lost chapter of Egyptian history or a forgotten cultural fusion, perhaps influenced by travelers from distant lands, blending linguistic elements to form a unique script. Were these writings the product of a hybrid culture or a secret sect within Egypt's complex spiritual landscape? The scrolls' physical preservation itself raises questions. Sealed within the tomb's protective environment, they have endured humidity and temperature fluctuations that normally degrade organic materials. This preservation suggests advanced embalming techniques extended beyond the human body to include sacred objects, emphasizing their significance. Attempts to reproduce or simulate the script have met with limited success. Linguists, cryptographers, and AI-driven translators remain stumped by its non-linear structure and ambiguous symbols. Each new hypothesis opens doors to more questions. Is the script a form of proto-writing, a precursor to later alphabets, or an entirely isolated linguistic experiment? As modern technology advances, new imaging and decryption methods continue to emerge, promising future breakthroughs. But for now, the scrolls remain silent, their contents a riddle wrapped in papyrus and mystery. Standing at the threshold of this sealed tomb, we confront a paradox, a wealth of information locked away by the inscrutable language of the past, guarding secrets no one has yet been able to fully comprehend. What truths lie hidden in these scrolls? What voices from a distant epoch are waiting to be heard once more? The unreadable scrolls invite us to reflect on the nature of knowledge and the boundaries of understanding, reminding us that even in a civilization as well studied as ancient Egypt, there remain realms of mystery still waiting to be explored. In the shadowed recesses of a temple long swallowed by desert sands, stands an artifact unlike any other. A statue carved from dark granite, its surface worn smooth by centuries of touch. Its eyes seemingly alive with a quiet, inscrutable energy. Known in the local lore as the Oracle statue, this figure has intrigued archaeologists, historians, and mystics for generations. What makes it extraordinary is the whispered legacy it carries, the belief that this silent stone once spoke, offering prophecies to those who sought its counsel. This statue, discovered in the ruins of a temple dedicated to a forgotten deity, is unique not only for its craftsmanship, but for the mysterious phenomena reported by ancient priests and modern visitors alike. According to texts found nearby, ritual participants claimed to hear faint voices, soft murmurs rising from the statue itself during sacred ceremonies. Was this a form of early ventriloquism, a clever acoustic design, or something more profound? The statue's features are deliberately enigmatic. A serene countenance, lips slightly parted as if caught mid-utterance, and an elaborate headdress that hints at divine authority. Its size, larger than life, commands presence in the dimly lit sanctuary, where flickering torchlight brings shadows to life along its carved contours. Intriguingly, the statue's mouth is hollowed, and subtle channels within its structure seem engineered to carry sound. Some scholars propose that the ancient builders may have exploited natural acoustics, perhaps using concealed chambers or wind currents to create eerie auditory effects. Yet the accounts surrounding the oracle statue transcend simple acoustic tricks. Ancient papyri reference priests who received cryptic messages through the statue, messages that foretold the fate of pharaohs, omens of war, and changes in the divine order. The wording in these texts is cautious but compelling, suggesting that the voices were considered genuine communications from the gods, delivered through this sacred conduit. Modern attempts to recreate these effects within the ruined temple have produced mixed results. Sound engineers have mapped the internal cavities of the statue, identifying resonant frequencies and possible pathways for sound transmission. However, no clear mechanism has been found that could fully explain the phenomenon. Could it be that some element, lost over millennia, such as specific ritual conditions, musical tones, or even spiritual presence, is required to awaken the statue's voice? Beyond the physical, the oracle statue invites reflection on the relationship between belief, perception, and power. In ancient Egypt, oracles were vital intermediaries between the mortal and divine realms. The very act of consulting a statue that could speak would reinforce the authority of priests and the legitimacy of their interpretations. Was the statue's voice a tool of control, a manifestation of ritual drama, or a genuine channel for divine will? Speculative theories delve into more esoteric possibilities. Some suggest that the statue was part of an advanced technological system, one capable of manipulating sound or even subtle energies. Could the Egyptians have harnessed principles of resonance or vibration unknown to modern science? If so, what was the purpose? Communication, healing, or cosmic alignment? Others propose that the voices might have been psychically transmitted, an expression of collective consciousness or ritual trance states experienced by the priests. The line between physical phenomena and spiritual experience blurs in these contexts, challenging our modern understanding of perception and reality. The historical context adds complexity. The temple housing the oracle statue was abruptly abandoned, its rituals ceasing without explanation. Was this sudden silence connected to the loss of the statue's power? Did the cessation of prophecy signal political or spiritual upheaval? The ruins bear traces of hurried closure, broken artifacts, hastily sealed chambers, raising more questions than answers. Moreover, the statue's original deity remains uncertain. Some suggest it represented a localized god of prophecy, perhaps assimilated into the larger pantheon over time and subsequently forgotten. The absence of clear identification fuels ongoing debates about the statue's origins and significance. In the wider landscape of Egyptian oracular tradition, this statue stands apart, less a text or temple inscription and more a living symbol, a mysterious presence inviting awe and contemplation. It reminds us that in ancient times, the boundaries between stone and spirit, voice and silence were fluid and permeable. Today, the oracle statue remains silent in its desert tomb, its whispered prophecies lost to the ages. Yet its carved lips continue to evoke wonder, inviting us to ponder the mysteries of ancient communication and the enigmatic ways the past reaches into our present. What secrets might still linger in the hollow depths of this statue? What voices from the beyond await rediscovery beneath the sands of time? The oracle's silence challenges us to listen more deeply, not just to sound, but to the whispers of history itself. Deep beneath the stone foundations of Egypt's ancient temples, in the hushed depths where light dares not linger, exists a chamber that has stirred the curiosity of scholars, mystics, and adventurers alike. Tucked away in a forgotten corner of a tomb near the Valley of the Kings, this chamber is unlike any other. It has earned a reputation in the most whispered of circles as the chamber where time pauses. The tale of this mysterious room begins with an archaeological dig that uncovered a sealed passageway, hidden beneath centuries of rubble. The walls of the chamber were found covered with strange, intricate patterns, symbols that seemed to blur the line between mathematics, magic, and astronomy. Unlike any known hieroglyphic inscriptions, the carvings were meticulously crafted, appearing to vibrate with a kind of energy when viewed in specific lighting. At first, the discovery seemed like just another intriguing relic, but then inexplicable phenomena began to emerge. Researchers and explorers who ventured into the chamber reported a strange sensation of time slowing down or freezing altogether. Watches, which had worked perfectly outside, stopped the moment they crossed the threshold of the chamber, their hands freezing in place. Some described hearing a faint hum, almost imperceptible, but powerful enough to induce a feeling of disorientation, as if they were no longer aligned with the present moment. And when they exited, the world seemed to resume as normal, time ticking on as though it had never been disrupted. Could these claims be mere exaggerations? The human mind, after all, can play strange tricks, especially in the dim silence of such an ancient place. But the consistency of these reports across different visitors, from archaeologists to tourists, has been enough to keep the legend alive. As one delves deeper into the history of the tomb, an even more unsettling layer to this mystery is revealed. Ancient texts, long buried in the sands of time, speak of a place where the gods whispered their secrets. In these texts, time is often described as a fluid, almost tangible force, subject to the whims of divine will. Could the chamber have been built as a way to mimic the eternal nature of the gods? Was it designed to allow the soul of a pharaoh to exist outside the constraints of linear time? The symbolism in the room's layout offers further intrigue. The geometric precision of the carvings, aligned with the stars, the cycles of the moon, and the movements of the planets, suggests that the ancient Egyptians may have understood time in a way that transcends modern perception. It has long been speculated that they had advanced knowledge of celestial mechanics, an understanding that could rival today's science. Could this knowledge have been encoded into the chamber itself, creating an effect that has baffled our best minds? One of the more compelling theories posits that the pause of time is not merely a metaphysical event, but an actual alteration in the physical perception of time. Some have drawn parallels between this phenomenon and certain modern theories of relativity, suggesting that the chamber's specific location and design could create an anomaly in the flow of time. Perhaps its positioning in relation to the Earth's magnetic fields, or even the geological properties of the land beneath it, could cause a disruption in the way time is experienced. A particularly fascinating angle comes from a theory involving the energy of sound and resonance. Some believe the chamber may have been constructed to capture and amplify specific frequencies, creating a subtle vibration that could slow down or distort the passage of time. This could explain the strange sensations felt by those who enter the room and the way watches and clocks stop, an interruption in the regular passage of time created by an engineered acoustic effect. However, to entertain such an idea leads one to question: were the Egyptians aware of these natural phenomena? Could they have harnessed principles of resonance, magnetism, or even what we now call quantum physics? Some speculate that the ancient builders may have understood, albeit in a mystical or symbolic way, the forces that govern our universe, potentially using these powers to create sacred spaces that stretched the boundaries of time itself. Further complicating the mystery is the room's construction materials. The chamber's walls were not made of ordinary stone, but a blend of materials that seem to have been chosen for their peculiar properties. Some elements, such as certain minerals found in the mortar, are said to absorb and refract light in unusual ways, creating shifting patterns that appear to change depending on the time of day. Could these materials, combined with the chamber's celestial alignment, be part of an ancient ritual designed to alter perception, or perhaps harness cosmic energy? Some fringe theories venture into the realm of the supernatural. Ancient Egyptian culture was rich with the belief in divine forces and the manipulation of time and space. Could this chamber have been designed not only as a tomb, but as a place for spiritual ascension, where the soul of the pharaoh could transcend time itself? In this view, the chamber may have been an intentional gateway between the mortal realm and the divine, a space where the ruler could exist outside the boundaries of time and return to the gods. There are even more speculative ideas that the room could have served as a location for ritualistic experiences, wherein the priests, acting as intermediaries, would guide the pharaoh's soul through different planes of existence. These rituals, said to be accompanied by chants or sacred music, might have been intended to allow the ruler to experience the divine in timeless eternity, fully aware and unburdened by the constraints of earthly existence. Despite the many theories, no one has been able to definitively explain the phenomenon. Modern science, with all its advancements, has yet to find a conclusive reason for the effects observed in the chamber. Attempts to measure the energy in the room, to detect any unusual electromagnetic fields or physical anomalies, have failed to yield consistent results. And while various sensors and instruments have been used, none have managed to replicate the experiences described by previous visitors. Was this anomaly a product of the ancient Egyptians' understanding of nature? Or could something more mysterious be at play? What remains clear is that the chamber where time pauses is an enigma. Its history, its purpose, and the strange sensations it evokes continue to fascinate all who hear its story. For now, the chamber lies dormant, its secrets locked away beneath the earth, and the ancient forces it houses remain a mystery. Could this chamber have been designed with a purpose we can only begin to understand, or is it simply the product of coincidence and misinterpretation? Time may tell, or it may remain forever beyond our grasp, its mysteries lingering just out of reach, challenging us to question what we know about the nature of time itself. Beneath the majestic expanse of the Nile River lies a hidden world, one that has been shaped by millennia of history, mysticism, and enigma. The river's currents, flowing endlessly between ancient banks, have long carried the memories of Egypt's past. But what if these memories were not only preserved in the records of hieroglyphs, tombs, and temples? What if, deep beneath the surface of the Nile, the voices of the forgotten still echoed, voices that have lingered for centuries, waiting to be heard again? It is in the depths of the Nile's waters, in submerged ruins and forgotten chambers, where the curious whispers of the ancient world have been reported. These eerie echoes, sometimes described as voices, at other times as distant, haunting melodies, have been recorded by explorers and scientists who dared to venture into the river's watery embrace. What is it that causes these strange, unexplained phenomena? Are they mere coincidences? Or could they be the reverberations of Egypt's distant past, reaching us across time like spectral remnants? The Nile, for the ancient Egyptians, was more than just a river. It was a lifeline, a divine conduit that connected the living with the gods. The river played a central role in burial rituals, spiritual practices, and the belief in the afterlife. The famous Book of the Dead speaks of the river as a path to the afterlife, where souls would sail across its waters to reach the judgment of Osiris. But what if the river, with its eternal flow, carried more than just the souls of the departed? It is no surprise, then, that beneath the Nile, scattered remnants of ancient cities, temples, and sacred sites have been discovered over the years. These submerged structures, long hidden from the eyes of the living, are often found along the river's banks, swallowed by the advancing waters. Yet with each dive into these sunken ruins, something strange happens. Explorers report hearing distant sounds, faint voices, whispers, or even the unsettling clinking of metal, as though the ghosts of Egypt's ancient civilization are still present, trapped in these submerged echoes. One particularly curious case comes from the remains of an ancient temple buried deep beneath the Nile's waters near the city of Alexandria. The site, which was once home to a vibrant community of priests and priestesses, had been lost for centuries. When divers first entered the temple's submerged halls, they reported hearing voices, so faint they could barely be distinguished from the sound of bubbles and rushing water. Some described the voices as melodic, almost ritualistic in nature, while others reported hearing phrases in ancient Egyptian, a language long forgotten by the modern world. One of the most intriguing aspects of this phenomenon is the fact that the voices, while faint, seemed to respond to the divers' movements. The deeper they ventured into the temple's underwater halls, the clearer the sounds became, as if they were coming from the very walls of the structure itself. Could these voices be echoes trapped in the stone, their resonance amplified by the unique acoustic properties of the submerged temple? Or could they be something more? A connection to the divine, or perhaps a remnant of a ritual so sacred it transcended time? Some scientists have attempted to explain these sounds using the principles of acoustics. Water, they argue, is a highly effective medium for transmitting sound. The ancient Egyptians were known to have an advanced understanding of sound and resonance, as evidenced by their use of sonic architecture in temples and pyramids. It's possible that the stones and materials used in the construction of these submerged structures are capable of creating unique acoustic environments, amplifying certain frequencies and producing sounds that resonate in the water. But while this explanation might account for some of the phenomena, it does not explain the specific nature of the voices. Why, for instance, do some divers report hearing words in ancient Egyptian, a language that has not been spoken in thousands of years? Why do these voices seem to respond to human presence in a way that goes beyond simple acoustics? Could it be that the energy of the river, combined with the sacred nature of these sites, creates a kind of spiritual resonance, one that reaches out to those who dare to listen? Other, more speculative theories suggest that the sounds could be manifestations of something far more mysterious, perhaps a form of memory, or even a form of consciousness encoded in the very fabric of the river and its ancient structures. The idea of residual energy is often discussed in paranormal circles, suggesting that certain locations, especially those imbued with intense emotional or spiritual significance, can retain the energy of past events. Could the Nile, as the lifeblood of Egypt, serve as a reservoir for this energy, capturing the voices of the long-departed and allowing them to echo through the ages? In this context, the voices heard beneath the waters could be seen as a form of ancient communication, a kind of spiritual or energetic imprint left behind by the rituals, prayers, and lives of those who once inhabited these temples and cities. Perhaps these voices are not just random sounds but deliberate attempts to reach out, to communicate with the living world. There is also the possibility that the voices are a kind of collective memory, encoded into the landscape itself. The ancient Egyptians believed in the power of the Ka, a spiritual essence that would continue to exist after death, and the Ba, a soul that could travel across time and space. What if the very souls of the departed, connected to the river and its eternal flow, are capable of projecting their memories and voices into the present? Could the voices heard by divers be the result of an ancient spiritual network, one that transcends the limits of time and space? Despite these theories, one thing remains certain: the phenomenon is far from understood. Some voices, like those in the submerged temple near Alexandria, have been recorded, yet no one has been able to explain them satisfactorily. Modern technology, while capable of capturing sound, has not been able to replicate the voices with the same clarity or intensity. The river, with all its mysteries, continues to defy full comprehension. The Nile's depths are still largely unexplored, and many believe that its waters conceal secrets that have yet to be revealed. What lies beneath the river's surface is a testament to the passage of time, the ruins of a civilization long submerged, waiting to be rediscovered. But the voices that linger there, the echoes of a forgotten age, raise more profound questions. Are these sounds mere remnants of a bygone era? Or are they something more? Do they represent the cries of a civilization seeking to be remembered? Or are they the whispers of the gods themselves, reaching across the ages? As we continue to explore the Nile's depths and uncover the mysteries of ancient Egypt, we are reminded that the past is not always as far away as it seems. The river that once carried the pharaohs to their afterlife may still be carrying their voices, faint, distant, yet ever present, waiting for those who dare to listen. Nestled between the towering cliffs of the eastern desert and the great expanse of the Nile, there exists a valley, isolated, quiet, and forgotten by most. It is a place where time seems to slow, where the ancient past lingers just beneath the surface, waiting to reveal itself. This is the valley where shadows move on their own, a place steeped in mystery, legends, and whispers of strange occurrences that defy logical explanation. In the heat of the Egyptian sun, the valley appears ordinary at first glance. The dry, cracked earth stretches out into the distance, dotted with the ruins of ancient structures, tombs, temples, and monuments, once built to honor the gods and guide the pharaohs into the afterlife. But as the day turns to night and the sun dips below the horizon, something unsettling begins to happen. The shadows of the valley seem to take on a life of their own. Explorers, archaeologists, and local villagers have reported the strange phenomenon for centuries. The shadows, long and stretched in the fading light, appear to move independently of any physical object casting them. They twist, shift, and glide across the rocky floor, even in the absence of wind or movement. The effect is subtle, but those who have witnessed it describe a sense of unease, as if the very land itself is alive, watching, waiting. The valley, which has long been associated with burial sites and sacred temples, was once believed to be a place of powerful spiritual significance. The ancient Egyptians, with their profound understanding of the afterlife, often chose locations like this to build their tombs and monuments. Was it simply coincidence that this particular valley, known in local folklore as the Valley of the Moving Shadows, became a site of such mysterious events? The phenomenon of the moving shadows is not merely the result of natural environmental factors. Shadows, after all, are bound to the objects that cast them. In this valley, however, the shadows seem to follow their own rules, stretching across the ground in ways that defy the position of the sun, moving in patterns that seem to suggest purpose. Some witnesses have reported that the shadows appear to shift in response to their movements, as if aware of the observer. At times, they have even seemed to swirl, as though caught in a wind that does not exist. This strange behavior has puzzled scientists and researchers who have attempted to study the phenomenon. One explanation proposed by skeptics points to the play of light and optical illusions caused by the unique topography of the valley. The deep crevices and jagged rock formations could, in theory, cast peculiar shadows at certain angles, creating the illusion of movement. But many who have spent time in the valley dismiss this theory, arguing that the behavior of the shadows is too consistent to be attributed to mere chance. There is, of course, the more conventional explanation that the shadows are merely the result of shifting light as the sun sets, an optical illusion that occurs when objects are illuminated at low angles. Yet, those who have spent long nights in the valley report an odd sensation. The shadows do not behave like ordinary shadows. They are not affected by the movement of the observer. They do not react to changes in light in the way natural shadows do. Instead, they seem to move with an unnatural rhythm, as though they are trying to communicate something, to convey a presence that cannot be seen with the naked eye. Is it possible that something else is at play? Could the shadows be manifestations of a deeper mystery, one that transcends the physical world? Some theorists suggest that the phenomenon could be linked to the valley's spiritual significance. Ancient Egyptians believed that the boundaries between the physical and spiritual worlds were not always fixed. The gods and the spirits of the dead were thought to move freely between the realms, sometimes appearing as shadows or fleeting figures. Could the shadows in this valley be the remnants of a ritual or a lingering connection to the spirit world? Could they be the souls of the departed, trapped between realms, unable to fully pass on to the afterlife? One theory holds that the valley was specifically chosen as a burial site for its unique ability to trap the essence of the deceased. The ancient Egyptians believed that the soul of a pharaoh or noble could remain in the tomb, linked to the land and the elements for eternity. The shadowy figures that move within the valley might, then, be the manifestations of these souls, caught in a liminal space between the physical and spiritual realms. Some researchers have ventured into the realm of quantum physics to explain the phenomenon. They speculate that the unique properties of the valley, its geographic location, the minerals in the soil, and the unusual acoustics of the area could create an electromagnetic field that disturbs the fabric of time and space, allowing for anomalies such as moving shadows to occur. It is possible that the valley's energy field, amplified by the presence of tombs and temples, creates distortions in our perception of time, causing shadows to appear to move in unnatural ways. Another theory suggests that the valley's deep history as a sacred site may have imprinted the land with an energetic residue, a kind of memory of the rituals and ceremonies that once took place there. Could these moving shadows be the echoes of those ancient rituals, replaying themselves like a ghostly recording? If so, it raises the question: what kind of rituals were performed in this valley that could leave such an indelible mark on the land? Despite these various explanations, the moving shadows remain a mystery, one that defies the conventions of scientific study and challenges our understanding of the physical world. Some have suggested that the phenomenon is merely the result of superstition, a product of folklore and local myth, but the consistency of reports from those who have visited the valley suggests otherwise. Could the valley be more than just a site of historical interest? Could it be a place where the ancient Egyptians, with their deep understanding of the cosmos and the afterlife, tapped into forces that are beyond our comprehension? As researchers continue to explore the valley, they are confronted with questions that extend beyond the realm of the physical. What is it about this place that makes it so different from other burial sites in Egypt? Why do the shadows move in ways that cannot be explained by natural law? Are they simply a trick of light? Or could they be something more? Something that exists at the edge of our understanding? The valley where shadows move on their own is a testament to the enduring mystery of ancient Egypt, a place where the line between the living and the dead seems to blur, and where the past continues to echo through time. Whether the shadows are simply the result of an optical illusion, a product of the valley's unique landscape, or something far more profound, one thing remains certain: the mystery of this valley is far from solved. And as long as the shadows continue to move, we will be left to wonder what secrets they might still hold, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to look beyond the surface. Deep within the ancient land of Egypt, where the great pyramids rise like silent sentinels against the sky, there exists a mystery that has baffled historians and archaeologists for centuries. Hidden in plain sight, inscribed upon the stone walls of tombs, temples, and monuments, are enigmatic messages, cryptic markings that appear to have been etched by hands unknown. Some of these messages are subtle, barely perceptible to the untrained eye, while others are bold and intricate, their purpose lost to time. But what exactly are they? And who were the people who left them behind? The ancient Egyptians are well known for their mastery of writing, most famously through their intricate system of hieroglyphs. These symbols, often carved with exquisite precision, chronicled the lives of pharaohs, recorded religious texts, and guided souls in their journey to the afterlife. Yet, scattered throughout Egypt are a series of inscriptions that defy conventional understanding, mysterious carvings whose origin remains uncertain and whose meanings elude even the most seasoned scholars. In one such discovery, in the ruins of a forgotten temple on the edge of the Nile, a team of archaeologists uncovered a series of stone inscriptions that did not match any known script or symbol from Egypt's recorded history. The carvings were not in hieroglyphs, not in hieratic or demotic, but rather a language entirely alien to the scholars. The symbols themselves were meticulously carved into the stone, their deep grooves suggesting the deliberate and thoughtful effort of someone who understood the importance of what they were creating. Yet the patterns, with their odd shapes and unrecognizable elements, refused to be deciphered. What was the purpose of these strange inscriptions? Were they the work of an unknown group within Egyptian society? Perhaps a sect or faction with its own secret language? Or could they be the legacy of an even older civilization, one whose presence in Egypt has been lost to history? Some of these mysterious markings appear to be deeply entwined with the architectural features of the temples and tombs they inhabit. In one case, a series of bizarre symbols was discovered carved into the stones of a remote pyramid, far from any known settlement. The inscriptions didn't resemble any Egyptian script, nor did they seem to relate to any of the religious rituals for which the pyramids were typically constructed. Rather, they appeared to form a kind of language that seemed to echo the alignment of the stars, suggesting that whoever carved them possessed an advanced understanding of astronomy. But how could this be? The Egyptians themselves had a highly sophisticated knowledge of the stars, but these symbols were unlike anything in their recorded astronomical texts. Was it possible that these markings had been left by a civilization that predated the Egyptians? Or could they have been created by an enigmatic group within Egyptian society, whose secrets were concealed by time? These questions have sparked the imagination of many theorists, who have proposed a variety of explanations, from the plausible to the outlandish. One theory suggests that these inscriptions may have been made by a group of rogue priests, perhaps an esoteric sect, who developed their own symbols and codes in order to keep their sacred knowledge hidden from the mainstream Egyptian society. Some believe that the markings could be the remnants of a lost cult, one whose practices were so secretive that even the ancient Egyptians themselves left no record of its existence. Others speculate that the messages etched into the stone may not be religious or even cultural in nature, but rather technological, possibly the work of ancient engineers or scientists who left behind complex instructions or blueprints for unknown devices. There are, for instance, several mysterious geometric patterns and measurements found carved into the stones of certain pyramids, which some have argued could represent plans for an advanced form of technology. Could these etchings be a forgotten manual, a set of instructions for a device or structure whose purpose was lost when the civilization that created it vanished? More intriguing still are the instances where the inscriptions seem to suggest communication with beings beyond Earth. The idea of ancient extraterrestrial contact is, of course, a highly controversial one, but some of the symbols appear to resemble representations of star systems or cosmic phenomena, concepts that would have been far beyond the grasp of the Egyptians, and yet are eerily reminiscent of modern astronomical understanding. Could these cryptic symbols be a form of ancient communication, messages left behind by visitors from the stars, or perhaps a forgotten message from a civilization whose legacy was wiped from the annals of history? It is tempting to imagine that these markings could hold the key to a greater cosmic truth, one that bridges the divide between our world and the mysterious forces of the universe. Of course, these speculative theories cannot be proven, and they remain on the fringe of mainstream academic thought. Yet, the fact that these inscriptions exist at all, and that they remain so stubbornly inscrutable, raises profound questions. Who were the people who created them? Why did they choose to carve their messages into the very fabric of Egypt's monuments? And what knowledge did they intend to preserve? Were they warning us of something, or simply leaving a record for those who might come after them, in the hope that one day their words would be understood? One of the most compelling aspects of these strange inscriptions is that they often seem to be connected to places of great significance. In some cases, the markings are found near the tombs of high-ranking officials or pharaohs, suggesting that the individuals who carved them may have had access to knowledge reserved only for the elite. In other cases, the inscriptions are discovered in the walls of temples that were dedicated to gods whose names have been lost to time, gods that we may never fully understand. The markings themselves often appear in places that are not easily accessible, such as hidden chambers or concealed passageways, suggesting that their creators intended them to remain secret. But what were they trying to hide? Was it a secret knowledge, a forbidden truth that could alter the course of history, if only we could unlock its meaning? Despite the many theories and conjectures, the fact remains that these inscriptions remain a mystery. Some have even argued that they represent a kind of puzzle, an intentional riddle left behind for future generations to solve. Could it be that these ancient messages were meant to guide us, to push the boundaries of our understanding? Or are they simply the forgotten remnants of a culture long gone, their meaning lost to the sands of time? As researchers continue to study the carvings, the search for answers persists. With each new discovery, new questions arise, deepening the enigma that surrounds these messages. Some believe that we are on the brink of unlocking the secrets of these ancient writings, while others remain skeptical, unsure if the answers will ever be found. Yet, as long as these mysterious inscriptions remain, they will continue to spark our curiosity and imagination. What truths lie hidden beneath the surface of these stone messages? And who were the unknown hands that left them behind, their voices silenced by the ages but still resonating through the walls of Egypt's ancient monuments? As the sands of time continue to shift, the mystery of these forgotten messages remains unsolved. And with each new revelation, we are reminded that, in Egypt, the past is never truly gone. It lives on in the inscriptions, in the stones, and in the shadows, waiting to be discovered. Beneath the towering columns of Karnak, where the sun casts its golden glow over the ancient temples, and where the gods themselves were thought to walk, there exists a place hidden in shadow. A place that, despite the countless hours of exploration and excavation, remains a source of mystery and unease. It is a secret garden, one that has become known as the Garden of Eternal Darkness, a garden not of life and sunlight, but of shadow and enigma. Karnak itself, located on the eastern bank of the Nile, was one of Egypt's most important religious centers, dedicated to Amun, the king of the gods. Its massive temples, pylons, and obelisks continue to inspire awe, standing as testaments to the skill and vision of ancient Egyptian architects. But beneath the surface, behind the grandeur of Karnak's famed hypostyle hall and grand avenues, there lies an area that defies easy explanation, a place that has perplexed both scholars and adventurers alike. The garden in question is not one that can be seen in broad daylight. No, it exists in a shadowy subterranean realm, hidden beneath the temple complex. Its very existence was first hinted at in ancient papyri, faint references to a sacred space where the living and the dead were believed to commune. Yet, what exactly this space was, or what it may have been used for, has remained an open question. Those who have ventured into the depths beneath Karnak's towering columns speak of a place shrouded in near-complete darkness, a garden that defies natural laws. Unlike the vibrant, flourishing gardens that graced the upper temples, this garden is marked by an unnatural stillness. Despite its underground location, there are no signs of decay or deterioration. The air is cool, yet heavy, as if time itself has forgotten this secret place. The first excavations beneath Karnak in the 19th century unearthed what appeared to be an underground chamber, concealed by a layer of rock and debris. At first, the team thought it to be just another burial chamber, one among many that dotted the region. But as they ventured further, they uncovered strange plant-like symbols etched into the walls. These symbols, unlike any previously encountered in Egyptian iconography, were reminiscent of sacred gardens but were darker, less welcoming. They seemed to convey something deeper, something ancient that had been deliberately hidden away. The deeper they went, the more unsettling the garden's true nature became. It was clear that whatever was beneath Karnak had been designed with purpose, a purpose that remained elusive. There were no botanical remains, no soil that might suggest an actual garden, but rather a network of stone carvings that seemed to mimic the forms of plants and trees. These were not mere decorative carvings, but meticulous, deliberate representations, each one arranged with a sense of reverence and mystery. What does this suggest? Could it be that the Egyptians, masters of symbolism, were conveying something more than just flora? Was this subterranean garden more than a symbolic representation of life and death? The lack of botanical remnants, or indeed any signs of life, raises more questions than answers. Were the ancient Egyptians communicating a deeper esoteric truth in this garden's form? Some researchers suggest that the Garden of Eternal Darkness was a sacred space connected to the afterlife, a place where the departed could enter, not in body, but in spirit. In this view, the garden was not meant to house plants, but rather to embody the paradox of the afterlife itself, a place of eternal stillness, of reflection, and of rebirth. The darkness beneath Karnak could then be seen as symbolic of the underworld, a place where the soul would descend before beginning its journey into eternity. There is, of course, another theory that suggests the garden was used for more ritualistic purposes. The ancient Egyptians were known for their complex burial practices and the reverence with which they treated the process of death. Could this garden have been a space for sacred rites, a place where the priests and high officials would go to commune with the gods of the underworld? Some scholars point to the odd plant-like symbols etched into the stone as evidence of ritualistic practices, perhaps connected to the worship of the god Osiris, who presided over the afterlife and the regeneration of life. Yet, despite the numerous theories, no definitive explanation has emerged. The Garden of Eternal Darkness remains locked away, its true purpose hidden beneath layers of time and stone. Its location is difficult to reach, buried far beneath the layers of the temple. Some argue that this was a deliberate effort by the ancient Egyptians to conceal it from prying eyes, a sacred space reserved only for those who had the knowledge and means to access it. As researchers have continued to probe the depths of Karnak, they have uncovered more strange and unnerving details. Some say that certain walls of the underground space are lined with an intricate network of mirrors, an odd and seemingly out-of-place feature in an ancient Egyptian temple. What could their purpose have been? Was it possible that the Egyptians understood the reflective properties of light in a way that we do not? Could these mirrors have been used to create illusions, to alter the perception of space and time in the garden, enhancing its mystical qualities? Or were they intended to serve as conduits for some other purpose, perhaps to commune with beings from another world? Another peculiar detail lies in the architecture of the garden itself. Unlike other Egyptian structures, which were known for their immense grandeur and monumentality, the subterranean space beneath Karnak is unexpectedly intimate. Narrow corridors, low ceilings, and a sense of confinement. The layout is almost labyrinthine, suggesting that the garden was designed for a specific purpose, perhaps to challenge the soul's journey through the afterlife, forcing it to navigate its way through a spiritual maze. This unique architectural design suggests that the garden may have been intended for use in rituals that required personal introspection, an environment in which individuals would confront the darkness within themselves. Was this an actual burial site, or a symbolic space used for purification and preparation before one entered the afterlife? The Egyptians believed that the transition from life to death was not merely physical, but spiritual, requiring purification and ritual. The Garden of Eternal Darkness, with its symbolic and physical isolation, may have been part of this sacred process. But what of the mysteries surrounding the garden's maintenance? Despite its subterranean location, no evidence of the decay typically associated with ancient ruins has been found. The stone carvings, the symbols, and even the mirrors remain pristine, as if untouched by the ravages of time. Some even suggest that there may be hidden forces at work, an inexplicable energy that preserves the space, keeping it locked in a perpetual state of timelessness. Could the Egyptians have imbued this place with some kind of ritualistic power, a force that continues to resonate through the ages? As the mystery of the Garden of Eternal Darkness deepens, questions abound. Was this garden truly a place of spiritual significance, or something more, a hidden space that defies our understanding of history and the natural world? And what of the mysterious carvings and the strange symbolism that pervades the space? What do they truly represent? Are we meant to see this garden as a metaphor for the journey of the soul? Or is there something more tangible, more physical, that we have yet to uncover? The Garden of Eternal Darkness remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of ancient Egypt. Its purpose and meaning have slipped through the hands of countless researchers, leaving only shadows in its wake. But perhaps that is the way it was meant to be, hidden, eternal, and impenetrable. As we continue to search for answers, we are reminded that even in the most sacred and revered places, the secrets of the past can remain forever out of reach. And so, as the sands of Egypt shift with the passage of time, the garden waits, its mysteries intact, whispering its enigma to those who dare to listen. As we leave the subterranean echoes of Karnak's hidden shadows, we emerge into a world just as enigmatic, one carved into the very stones that bore witness to gods and kings. From Luxor to Edfu, from Abydos to Dendera, ancient Egyptian temples are adorned with murals and reliefs that stretch across millennia. They tell stories of creation, of death, of divine intervention. But among these sacred stories, one motif returns with curious consistency: the fusion of animal and man. In countless carvings, statues, and painted walls, the Egyptians depicted deities with the bodies of humans and the heads of animals. The jackal-headed Anubis, the falcon-headed Horus, the ibis-headed Thoth. These are familiar figures to scholars and tourists alike. But among the pantheon of gods lies something more peculiar: representations that blur the line between symbolism and biology, creatures with proportions and features that do not match any known deity or myth, beings whose presence is not clearly recorded in religious texts, but who nonetheless exist, etched silently into walls, eyes staring out across eternity. What were these beings? Religious metaphors, artistic inventions, or records of something stranger? Consider the walls of the Temple of Esna, a lesser-known site along the Nile. Amid rows of clearly identified deities, scholars have documented depictions of hybrid creatures that seem less like symbolic gods and more like amalgamations. One shows a figure with the legs of a lion, a torso like a man's, but crowned with the head of a bird no Egyptologist can clearly classify. Another carving, faded by time, seems to show a bipedal crocodilian being, armed not with scepters or ankhs, but with what look like curved tools or weapons. The traditional interpretation holds that these creatures were merely mythological, representing specific powers, fears, or aspects of nature. Ancient Egypt's religion was rich with metaphor, and its art was often more symbolic than literal. But does that explanation fully account for the anatomical precision found in some of these carvings? Why, in a culture known for artistic consistency and meticulousness, do we find beings whose proportions break from the canon of divine art? Why do some figures appear not divine, but biological, as if drawn from observation, not invention? In 2018, archaeologists re-examining temple bas-reliefs at Kom Ombo discovered a panel that hadn't been fully translated. Among the hieroglyphs were references to beings from beyond the river of time, accompanied by depictions of elongated animal-human hybrids, figures never catalogued among the gods. Some scholars dismissed it as allegory. Others weren't so certain. The phrase was unusual, even poetic, and the accompanying imagery, unsettling in its precision. Some researchers propose that these hybrid figures were visual metaphors for human qualities, courage represented by a lion's mane, vision by a falcon's eye. Others argue that these depictions were part of ritual magic, an attempt to fuse human and animal strength through visual incantation. But still others, dwelling on the fringes of accepted archaeology, raise more speculative questions. Were these creatures based on real encounters? Could it be, they ask, that these figures reflect biological experiments lost to history? Or beings remembered dimly from another age? Could the temples of Egypt contain not just the myth of gods, but the memory of something else, something now forgotten? Let's entertain the idea for a moment. Genetic manipulation is not something we typically associate with the ancient world, and yet cultures around the globe speak of chimeras, of merged creatures, of men with eagle wings, of centaurs and mermaids. Might the recurring nature of these stories hint at a deeper archetype, or even a shared memory? The Egyptians, after all, were masterful in their knowledge of anatomy, medicine, and embalming. Their precision in mummification and surgery has been well documented. Could they have stumbled upon rudimentary forms of biological experimentation? Or did they perhaps inherit knowledge from an even earlier, lost civilization, one capable of feats we still don't understand? There are no remains of such hybrids in tombs or crypts, no skeletons to analyze, no DNA to extract. But perhaps that's precisely why the carvings are so compelling. In a culture obsessed with death, with preservation, with the afterlife, why are these beings not afforded the same honor of mummification? Why do they exist only in carved stone, in remote corners of temples? Were they deliberately erased? Were they not meant to be remembered? Alternative theories abound. Some suggest that these animal-human figures were never meant to represent physical beings at all, but consciousness itself, spiritual forms experienced during trance states or sacred rituals. In the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, several hybrid carvings appear within chambers thought to be associated with dream incubation or divine communication. Could these entities have been encountered not with the eyes, but with the mind? Shamanic traditions worldwide speak of guides that take animal form, of beings that exist between dimensions. Perhaps the Egyptians, too, had rituals designed to open such doors. Could the temples have functioned not only as places of worship, but as vessels for altered states of awareness, states in which these hybrids appeared not as myths, but as messengers? And what of the idea that these beings came from beyond the stars? Ancient astronaut theorists have long pointed to the Egyptian pantheon as evidence of extraterrestrial contact. suggesting that the hybrids were visitors or genetically altered emissaries. This idea is not accepted by mainstream archaeology, but it persists, largely because of the strangeness and the consistency of these images across cultures and time. In the final analysis, we are left with a puzzle, one drawn not from the shifting sands of the desert, but from its carved walls. Animal-human hybrids in Egyptian temple carvings remain one of the more tantalizing mysteries of the ancient world. Whether they are metaphors, memories, messengers, or mere myth, we cannot yet say. But they stare out from the past with unblinking eyes, inviting us to question the sharp line we draw between myth and memory, between imagination and reality. And as we look deeper, we must ask, what else is hidden in plain sight, etched into the very foundations of temples we thought we understood? How much of history is carved in symbols we've yet to decode? Perhaps one day these beings will speak again. Until then, their silence speaks volumes. From the temple walls etched with animal-human beings, we now return to one of the most iconic and enigmatic symbols of ancient Egypt. Towering silently on the Giza plateau, with the strength of a lion and the face of a man, the great Sphinx has long captured the human imagination. It gazes east, toward the rising sun, its expression frozen in time, its secrets buried deep within the sands that shift endlessly around it. But while its surface tells a story of ancient majesty, it is what lies beneath the Sphinx that continues to stir curiosity and unease. For beneath this colossal monument, many believe there are secrets yet unearthed, chambers, tunnels, and pathways long forgotten by time. Some claim they were sealed deliberately. Others argue they were never meant to be found. Is it merely stone beneath the Sphinx's shadow? Or could there be something more? Something carved in the deep bedrock of Egypt's spiritual heart? The Great Sphinx of Giza is massive, 73 meters long, 20 meters high, carved directly from the bedrock. It is widely believed to represent Pharaoh Khafra and is dated by most Egyptologists to approximately 2500 BCE. Yet its true origins remain debated. Some geologists argue the erosion patterns on its flanks suggest a much older date, perhaps predating dynastic Egypt entirely. But it is not just the monument's age that intrigues researchers. Beneath the Sphinx, ground-penetrating radar surveys have detected voids, anomalous spaces, some rectangular, others irregular. These scans, carried out in the 1990s and early 2000s, sparked renewed interest in what lies hidden beneath the paws of this silent sentinel. In 1993, a team led by Thomas DeBecke and John Anthony West conducted seismic studies around the Sphinx. They discovered subsurface anomalies, suggesting chambers or hollowed areas beneath the structure. These findings were confirmed by Egyptian authorities, yet access to explore them remains limited. Why? What, if anything, lies beneath the Sphinx, and why is the area so tightly controlled? Ancient texts add to the mystery. The writings of Pliny the Elder, a Roman author from the 1st century CE, mention underground chambers beneath Egyptian monuments, vaults said to contain ancient records and unknown wisdom. Arab scholars in the Middle Ages spoke of labyrinths under the sands of Giza, passages that led to the Hall of Records, a place believed to house the forgotten knowledge of a lost civilization. Is this just legend? Or were these authors describing real, buried structures, now inaccessible beneath layers of time, stone, and silence? In 1989, Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass and Mark Lehner uncovered a series of tunnels leading away from the Sphinx enclosure. Most were dismissed as natural fissures or maintenance shafts. But one tunnel, descending sharply into the bedrock beneath the monument, was sealed and declared off-limits. no official explanation has ever fully satisfied the public curiosity surrounding that shaft. Some say it leads nowhere. Others suspect it was part of something much larger, perhaps a temple complex or ceremonial passageway aligned with the stars. Could these hidden tunnels connect to chambers long since lost, buried beneath centuries of sediment and political red tape? Speculation has only grown as more advanced technologies are applied to the site. Independent researchers, using muon imaging and further seismic readings, continue to suggest the existence of voids directly beneath the Sphinx's paws. The rectangular shape of one particular anomaly has led to intense speculation. Could it be a sealed tomb, a hidden library, or simply an ancient storage area lost to time? The theories grow stranger as one drifts further from academic consensus. Some suggest the Sphinx was not built by the dynastic Egyptians at all, but inherited from a much older culture. A culture whose knowledge may be buried beneath it, waiting for rediscovery. Advocates of the lost civilization theory propose that the structure predates the pharaohs by thousands of years, and that the underground chambers were meant to protect sacred information from a cataclysmic event. Even the famous psychic Edgar Cayce, in the 1930s, claimed to have seen visions of a hall of records beneath the Sphinx, an ancient library containing the story of Atlantis and the origins of human civilization. While few in academia give this claim merit, the idea persists, kept alive by the silence surrounding official excavations. Why is the area beneath the Sphinx so difficult to access? Is it a matter of preservation or protection? We must also consider the symbolic weight the Sphinx carried. In ancient Egyptian theology, the lion was a guardian. The fusion of lion and pharaoh may have served not just as a monument to a ruler, but as a gatekeeper, literally watching over something beneath. The monument's exact alignment, facing the horizon at the vernal equinox, suggests cosmological importance. Could the Sphinx have marked a sacred entrance to the underworld, or to the stars? Further supporting the notion of a deeper mystery are the temples and causeways that surround the Sphinx. The Valley Temple, just steps away, is made of enormous blocks weighing hundreds of tons, placed with such precision that modern machinery would struggle to replicate the feat. Some of these blocks appear recycled from older structures. Why? Was the area surrounding the Sphinx reconstructed from something more ancient, perhaps even in an attempt to protect or obscure its original purpose? Even today, after decades of excavation, the Sphinx continues to offer more questions than answers. Restoration efforts have revealed hidden shafts and fissures. Weathering patterns continue to challenge conventional dating. And yet, no definitive explanation has emerged for the subterranean features repeatedly hinted at by geological surveys. We know that ancient Egyptians dug deep, from the descending corridors of the Great Pyramid to the multi-level tombs of the Valley of the Kings. Their architecture often vanished into the earth. Is it so unlikely, then, that beneath the oldest and most mysterious of their monuments, they might have buried something extraordinary? Or perhaps, they were simply building monuments upon even older sites, inheriting sacred land whose true purpose was already forgotten. As the sun sets behind the Giza Plateau and shadows stretch long across the desert floor, the Sphinx remains, silent, unmoving, inscrutable. It has watched empires rise and fall. It has endured floods, sandstorms, and centuries of erosion. But beneath its massive paws, the ground tells a quieter story. Something is there, something we cannot see. And so the question lingers, carried on the desert winds. What lies beneath the Sphinx? Is it only stone, or is it memory? A legacy sealed by ancient hands, a doorway waiting, still unopened? Until those pathways are explored, the riddle of the Sphinx is far from solved. Beneath a sky that once shimmered with gods and fire, in a land where the heavens and the earth were thought to speak in unison, stands a temple carved in sun-baked stone, its walls marked not just with devotion but with precision. Here, in the heart of Egypt's desert silence, lies an architectural enigma that some say could speak to the very storms of the sun. At first glance, the temple of concern is not unlike many others, aligned to celestial bodies, decorated with familiar hieroglyphs, its sandstone baked golden under the Egyptian sun. But closer inspection reveals something different, something unsettling. Its reliefs, carved with symbols long interpreted as mythic or metaphysical, seem to shift meaning when placed against the patterns of the stars and the rhythms of our sun. Etched into its interior walls are swirling spirals, jagged waves, and disc-like symbols, long dismissed as mere religious iconography. But to a few researchers, these forms bear an uncanny resemblance to coronal mass ejections, magnetic field lines, and solar flares, phenomena only understood in the age of satellites. Could this temple, thousands of years old, have encoded a warning or a forecast? The temple in question, sometimes identified with the lesser-known solar sanctuaries near Heliopolis or Abydos, is aligned so precisely with the solstices and equinoxes that modern scholars have marveled at its accuracy. Light floods specific chambers only at particular times of year, times when, curiously, the sun is at heightened electromagnetic activity. Inscriptions in the stone describe a heavenly serpent that lashes out across the sky, setting fires, darkening the land, and bringing sickness. At first, these might seem like typical references to gods in anger, but when cross-referenced with tree ring data and ancient climate records, a pattern begins to emerge. Around the dates these serpents were recorded, Earth appears to have experienced strange anomalies: sudden cooling, crop failures, even surges in auroral activity far from polar regions. Could these stories be records, not myths? Records of solar storms, perhaps even solar superflares, observed by ancient skywatchers with tools now lost to us. Modern technology has only deepened the puzzle. In recent years, astrophysicists have begun using satellite data to study correlations between solar behavior and earthly phenomena. Some temples appear to be located in places where magnetic anomalies are highest, zones where geomagnetic energy is most volatile during solar storms. Why build there? Were these temples built to harness that energy, to shield against it, or to simply observe? Limestone blocks in one temple chamber, scorched and unusually discolored, test positive for rare isotopes like beryllium-10, associated with cosmic radiation spikes. Could it be that a major solar event once swept through this region, leaving traces not just in the atmosphere, but in the very rock itself? Even more puzzling is a chamber sealed for centuries, opened only recently. Inside, no sarcophagus, no offerings, just a flat stone table carved with deeply etched waveforms and circular motifs. Around the walls, figures with upraised arms, not in prayer, but as if shielding themselves from some immense force above. Were they recording a memory or a prophecy? Mainstream Egyptologists caution restraint. They warn against reading too much into artistic expression, pointing to the symbolic language of Egyptian art, where spirals can mean water, circles can symbolize the sun god Ra, and waves might simply represent the Nile's movement. Still, even among the orthodox, there's acknowledgement that the ancients were astute observers of the sky. They tracked Venus and Sirius with remarkable accuracy. They knew the cycles of eclipses and comets. Is it such a leap to think they may have observed something more, something destructive? One scholar notes that the ancient Egyptian calendar occasionally inserted epigomenal days, 5 extra days deemed dangerous and sacred when chaos walked freely. Some researchers now believe these days coincided with increased solar activity. Coincidence? Or was this an ancient solar calendar, disguised as myth? Then there's the tale of the burning sky. In a papyrus fragment housed in the Cairo Museum, rarely displayed due to its fragile condition, is a passage that tells of a time when the eye of Ra opened, and men could not speak, nor see, and their skin cracked beneath the light. Translations differ, but many suggest this eye may not have been metaphorical. Was it describing a solar event? A flare strong enough to blind and burn? And if so, how did they know? Did the priests of this temple watch the sun not just as a god, but as a volatile force, a being whose moods could shape life or death? Could their rituals have been more than worship? Could they have been attempts to appease or predict? Some fringe theorists go further, speculating that the temple was part of a lost technological system, a kind of early observatory grid or energy detection station. While there's no hard evidence to support this, the precision of the structure, the peculiar materials used in specific areas, and the recurring symbols tied to solar behavior continue to provoke questions. Why, for instance, would some chambers be lined with quartz-infused stone, known to react subtly to changes in electromagnetic fields? Why would certain niches amplify sound and vibration unnaturally during periods of high solar radiation, as some modern tests have indicated? Could this temple have been a primitive sensor of sorts, its builders understanding intuitively what we now measure digitally? Today, solar storms are monitored by satellites and space weather observatories. We know that a strong enough flare could disable power grids, disrupt communications, even endanger astronauts. But what if this knowledge is not uniquely modern? What if echoes of this awareness were inscribed long ago, waiting in stone under layers of symbol and ritual? As we continue to decode the language of ancient Egypt, we're reminded that their science and spirituality were often indistinguishable. A storm of the sun might be a flare, or the wrath of a god. A solar anomaly might be seen not as a phenomenon to measure, but as a force to fear, to honor, to record. So the question remains, did this temple merely honor Ra, the sun god? Or did it, in its silent symmetry and carved spirals, speak of something deeper, something still written in the sky? And if we ever decode its full meaning, what will it tell us? About the past, or perhaps about what is still to come. As we leave behind the temple that may have once whispered warnings of solar wrath, we follow the pull of something more elusive, an ancient flow that cannot be seen from above. Beneath the unyielding weight of stone and time, beneath the vast Giza plateau where the Great Pyramid still casts its eternal shadow, lies a question that few dare ask aloud. Is there a river flowing beneath the pyramids? It begins with a tremor in the earth, not seismic, but acoustic. In the early 20th century, British and French explorers conducting ground resonance tests near the pyramids reported odd echoing voids beneath their feet. These hollow zones, as one report phrased it, gave rise to whispers of a forgotten underground network, passages, chambers, and running water. The Nile, lifeblood of ancient Egypt, once flowed far closer to the pyramids than it does today. In fact, old maps and sediment core studies suggest that a distributary branch of the Nile, sometimes called the Khufu Channel, may have once wrapped around the base of the Giza Plateau itself. Temples, causeways, and harbors aligned not only with celestial events, but with the flow of water. But this raises a deeper question. Was there more than just surface water? In 2017, a team of researchers from Cairo University conducted geophysical surveys using electrical resistivity tomography, a non-invasive technique that allows scientists to peer beneath the surface without excavation. Their findings suggested the presence of anomalous subsurface features, deep, linear cavities and voids stretching under portions of the plateau. Some were quick to dismiss them as natural fissures or eroded bedrock, but others noted that the geometry of these voids was unusually consistent, almost artificial. And then came the sound. Explorers working in hidden shafts beneath the pyramids, some open to researchers, others reportedly off-limits, have on occasion described the faint sound of dripping water or a soft, rushing echo far below the carved stone. Modern instruments placed in the Serapeum, deep under Saqqara to the south, have recorded low-frequency vibrations consistent with moving groundwater. Could this water be part of an ancient system? A river not lost, but buried? Egyptian mythology is full of references to sacred underground rivers. In funerary texts, the Duat, the underworld, is often described as a dark region where the soul journeys by boat through hidden waters. The Book of the Dead speaks of channels guarded by serpents, lakes of fire, and rivers of eternity. Were these metaphorical descriptions or distant memories of something once real? In certain Old Kingdom reliefs, notably in the temple of Seti I at Abydos, we find depictions of subterranean boats gliding beneath stylized hills. Some Egyptologists interpret these as symbolic of spiritual journeys. Others, quietly, wonder if they represent something more literal, a navigable underworld, hidden beneath the monuments of stone. Then there are the engineers. Hydrologists examining the base of the Great Pyramid note that its immense weight sits atop limestone strata highly susceptible to the movement of groundwater. If, centuries ago, the region was saturated by Nile floods, it's possible that water flowed beneath the pyramid through natural or even enhanced channels. Some speculate that the pyramid's internal structure, the descending passage, the so-called unfinished chamber far below the surface, may have interacted with water in ways we still don't fully understand. In fact, French researchers once floated a theory that the pyramid's alignment, mass distribution, and internal shafts may have functioned as a type of resonance chamber, amplifying earth vibrations, and possibly the sound of moving water beneath the stone. But to what end? Fringe theorists, as expected, offer bolder claims. Some speak of energy channels, suggesting the underground water acted as a conductor for telluric currents, part of a global grid of power or consciousness. Others cite the writings of Herodotus, who claimed that King Cheops, Khufu, was buried in a stone sarcophagus beneath the Great Pyramid, surrounded by water. Mainstream historians dismiss this as allegory or error, but the passage has never fully disappeared from academic debate. And yet, no archaeologist has found such a chamber. Could it still lie hidden, just beyond the limits of current exploration? In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project detected a large void above the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid using cosmic ray muon imaging. But the most tantalizing gaps, some argue, are not above, but below. Access is restricted. Excavation is difficult, if not impossible, due to concerns over the pyramid's structural integrity. What lies beneath may stay sealed for generations. Satellite imagery reveals subtle subsurface features stretching from the Giza Plateau toward the ancient Nile bed, linear depressions, hints of channel-like structures that seem to vanish into the desert. Were these ancient aqueducts, sacred rivers, or merely the erosion of time? More recent LiDAR and ground-penetrating radar scans continue to offer anomalies, zones of different density, zones of silence. And through it all, the question persists. Were the pyramids ever meant to stand atop water? Or did the water beneath serve a more profound purpose? The ancients believed water was the bridge between worlds. It carried the sun god Ra on his nightly journey through the Duat. It washed away impurity, connected realms, and echoed with the voice of creation. So, what do we make of this underground river? Is it a coincidence of geology, a forgotten branch of the Nile, or part of something far older, perhaps something the ancients designed their most enduring monuments to honor or contain. Even now, in the stillness beneath Giza, the earth may be whispering, not in words, but in the subtle sound of something moving, just beneath the stone, waiting. What might we find if we dared to listen more closely?